Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan. Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Hey there, very good afternoon to you, and welcome into the Sports Bar, Rochester's only local sports talk show. Danger and Battaglia, we're glad you're with us. Thanks for listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app, or our YouTube channel where you're watching along at The Fan Rochester. I'm Danger. That's Battaglia.
Fun week here coming up. It's going to feel like football season in a way when everybody is kind of getting together here, not just in Western New York, but around the league. And if you're wondering, wait a second, you heard Brownie and Tester say, why weren't they on TV today? Well, it's because there are guys that are already coming in, and you know how they have the scoreboard shots or whatever, taking pictures with the football. They needed the green screen today on One Bills Live. So the guys got kicked out of their own studio, so no TV show today. But we were lucky enough to have the radio side of it. But I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, yeah,
the guys are in, and they got to get their shots taken.
Yeah, it's the only time you can do it.
That's right. You remember back like when Josh Allen was a rookie, and they had him do all the different gifts. Like there was so many different, like Josh Allen doing like different dancing, and
like somebody like an L on the head, and he's but. Yeah. This day and age, can you believe that's real or not? I mean, now it's like, do we really need the green screen?
Oh, you mean have AI do it?
Have AI do it.
Right. So Josh Allen shows up and he's got 3 limbs. And he's got like a third eyeball on the middle of his forehead just because that's what AI will spit out.
Well, because he's the daddy of the AFC East, so he's pushing a stroller there with the 3 other quarterbacks.
Correct.
How many yards is a roughing the passer penalty? 15 yards. Name the 4 teams in the AFC East Division. You got the Buffalo Bills and the Bills' 3 sons. And what is the Super Bowl trophy called? The Lombardi Trophy.
Yeah, you put a ring on that. You marry that.
Yeah.
That's very well done. It will be exciting when Bills mandatory minicamp gets underway tomorrow, and of course we'll be covering all of it with people that are there, boots on the ground, and taking in all of the media availability that the Bills are offering, including head coach Sean McDermott tomorrow, Josh Allen tomorrow as well. Before we get to that, today we'll catch up with 13 Wham Sports Director, Buffalo Plus, the Hall of Famer, Mike Catalana, stopping by.
Yeah, so we'll kind of preview Bill's minicamp with the icon in Rochester. He had a great piece also, too. If you're an Amherst fan, highly recommend you go look up his look back at the life of Scotty Metcalf and what that era of Amherst hockey was like. So great job by Mike. He will be joining us bottom of this hour to talk some Buffalo Bills football. Mike Catalana, Buffalo Plus, and 13 Wham.
And later on this afternoon, we go to our Odyssey Sports sister station in New York City, WFAN, KM to AM. Keith McPherson is stopping by the sports bar.
Now there's reports that it was actually James Dolan who was behind. He just simply didn't like the head coach, so I'm going to make the move, and everybody's going to fall in line here.
The idea that they're now showing interest in Kidd, that tells me that you didn't have a plan. You were just going to move on from Tibbs without a plan.
That's alarming.
That's impulsive, and it kind of fits. The shoe kind of fits when you're talking about Dolan as an owner. Impulsive, hot-headed, and that's exactly what happened here with Tibbs. It appears that's what happened here with Thibodeau, and we'll see now what's next. But we'll get Keith's take on the Knicks, their end of season, and now their coaching search. That's coming up here right around 4:25 this afternoon.
Yeah, for something that it stings whenever your favorite team, the season ends. But for the Knicks, you were left wanting more. And if basically the cast is back together and you look at the Eastern Conference, like, okay, an adjustment here, adjustment there, who's to say they wouldn't have gone at it? Now we're kind of like, oh, okay, then what is the direction? We'll get the thoughts, and I love having Keith and his viewpoint. Will be joining us here 4 o'clock hour, around 4:30.
866-4FAN if you want to join us, 866-4326 is the number to call. Our lines are open for you all afternoon long. And I guess maybe like the biggest story today that maybe has a Bills angle to it was the interest that the team showed in Jair Alexander, who's played his entire career for the Packers since they drafted him as a first-rounder back in 2018. He's being released today, and I think that the announcement, I don't know if it's officially that he's been released, or if they made the announcement that they're going to release him in the hope that a last-ditch effort for a trade could be made before he hits the free agent market.
Yeah, and maybe at this point, you're probably not sending him off somewhere where he might not want to go or report or whatever it is without a new contract. So this will end up danger, him being released. And the story from Jordan Schultz that, okay, somewhere in the offseason, the Green Bay Packers talked to the Buffalo Bills about Jair Alexander, but the two sides couldn't agree, and we move on. That doesn't mean Jair Alexander, now that he's on the street and you wouldn't have to compensate the Buffalo Bills, is going to be a Bill, because here's one thing I know about Brandon Beane. He's talking to everyone. So did he have a conversation about Jair Alexander? Probably. But the Bills since then, I think this is the obvious point, they think they've addressed this issue of corner two, where you had Rasul Douglas before. Douglas, by the way, still on the street. You go out and you spend your first-round pick on Maxwell Harrison, and you bring back a Tre'Davious White. So hard for me to imagine the Buffalo Bills, after they gave White guaranteed money, like, yeah, no, we're going to kind of just go after Jair Alexander here.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there might still be some game left in Jair Alexander, although he's missed more games than he's played in the last two seasons in Green Bay with just a string of different injuries. Healthy now, and likely able to contribute to a team in 2025, but what price? It's what ended the talks with the Buffalo Bills, so we'll kind of keep an eye on what Jair Alexander does. And I don't know, Gino, I mean, while it feels like the Bills have addressed these areas of concern at corner specifically, is Jair Alexander at this stage of his career a better option for the Bills than Trey White? I know you have Trey White. I know you have loyalty to Trey White. I don't know if he is or if he isn't. I don't know the total health picture around Jair Alexander. We know that Trey White is healthy, but when last we saw him in Buffalo, far from.
Is it a fit? Because I'm not going to argue with you. Like, is Jair Alexander better than corner four, whoever that may be, Dane Jackson, Jamarcus Ingram? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But is he going to be happy?
Is he a starter?
You're going to, like, he's going to want, okay, it's my job to lose, not you have a chance to compete. That he's not going to choose a place, a destination like Buffalo.
That's right. When you have Hairston, when you have Trey White, and when you have Dane Jackson, guys that are all, Trey White and Jackson specifically, very familiar with this defense, and Hairston, somebody with the exceptional speed, hard for me to imagine that Jair Alexander would be like immediately accepted as CB2 opposite Benford, and there are probably better opportunities out there for him.
Well, you and I like to kind of go a little deeper on these stories and, figure out who's the secret winner, who's the secret loser. I don't know if there's a secret winner in this other than maybe somebody who gets the job in Green Bay where Jair Alexander might have been taking it. I think the secret loser here, the Miami Dolphins. Yeah, but at this point, good luck on getting any return on Jalen Ramsey when you have that contract. And I know you want to wish that contract away, and it cracks me up whenever I see a Jalen Ramsey story and then somebody speculates, oh, where could he go? Possibly Buffalo. No, he's not coming to Buffalo.
Right, no. So that's a Jair Alexander story, and that idea that the Bills were somehow tied to him here earlier in the offseason, while interesting, didn't pan out, didn't come to fruition. And I think the way it's setting up right now with mandatory minicamp tomorrow, this is the crew. These are the corners that they're going to run with. And I think you could do a lot worse than what they have with Hairston, with Trey White, and, of course, with Christian Benford as your anchor.
Yeah, it's not a weakness of the team. I mean, it was a glaring need, and I think you've got two solutions, and that's going to be one of those fun battles at camp. And Danger, we're all optimistic on Tre'Davious White. Everybody looks great this time of year. Maybe he doesn't have anything left. The thing that Brandon Beane will show is that, all right, if there is a problem in the season, well, then you know what? We're going to go out and trade for and fix that problem. Can't say that Amari Cooper was this great. Like, Cooper's still out in the street, but they addressed that need, and it worked in a win over the Titans. I think Rasul Douglas 2 years ago was a really nice pickup by Buffalo.
Yeah, I think what we've learned is that Brandon Beane is always going to look for ways to make the team better. And even if he can't get it done, he's at least looking. He's having the conversations. He's trying to find ways to make the team better. So when he says it, it's not just lip service. He's actually following it up with action, and it's action that we see, even if the deals don't always get done. The idea that at that time, the Bills knew they needed corner, and they were talking to Green Bay about Jair Alexander is comforting, in that you have a GM who walks the walk and talks the talk. There's another former Buffalo Bill who is taking a visit with another team, and I'm wondering if Gabe Davis is going to play in 2025. Gabe Davis now visiting with the Saints, looking for a one-year deal, just looking to latch on, and his health is of concern to me. I don't know how healthy he is. I don't know if he's going to end up signing after being released by Jacksonville earlier this offseason. He's met with the Giants, the 49ers, the Steelers, and now the Saints.
If the offer from all the above, assuming there is an offer, is, hey, it's the veteran minimum plus incentives, okay, thank you very much. I can see why he would move on to the next one. Does that ultimately lead him to return a call, perhaps, from Buffalo? Have we completely moved on from Gabe Davis?
I think we have. I think when you look at the wide receivers for the Buffalo Bills, you struggle, much like we were just talking about with Alexander, you struggle for a way where Gabe Davis can be on the field. I don't know that he is. We know he's a good run blocker. We know he's had some really, really good games in Buffalo, albeit a while ago now. And I think if they really wanted him, he'd be here already.
Yeah, the signing of Elijah Moore, pretty much. I mean, of all the years we've been doing this, the wide receiver position danger, it may not knock your socks off, but it's competent, and I think it's pretty set, where you start off with Khalil Shakir, who maybe isn't a true number one, but my gosh, any team would take him. Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman being the guy that you're really hoping that would break out. And you work your way over to Elijah Moore, and you can't forget about Palmer, who you picked up from the Chargers. That's 5 right there. That's your 5. And then what are we talking about after that? You're talking about maybe a returner. Maybe it's Laviska Shenault, for special teams. That's wide receiver 6. That's it. The position. So barring an injury, it's hard for me to see the Bills shopping at the wide receiver position.
Because we have a quota to hit, we do now know the terms, or at least the value of the 1-year contract for Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh.
Now, said quota. I thought we were going to talk about America's couple. I thought that's the quota.
We have a couple.
Yeah, that quota we're not hitting right now.
We haven't hit that one here. We got to make sure we hit that before 6 o'clock. I'm sure we have something going on. It's a maximum value for Rodgers of $19.5 million, but the guaranteed money, right on the money. 1 year, $10 million guaranteed, with a base that's about $13.65 million. So Rodgers, playing for what he said he would play for, and that $10 million guaranteed, this contract now makes him the second lowest paid starting quarterback on a non-rookie deal.
That's humble pie. And this report from Schefter, Danger, that okay, he was the third choice for the Steelers.
Yeah.
The idea that, okay, we wanted Justin Fields ahead of you. Well, Fields is like, adios. I'm going to go play for a new management over there in the Jets. Okay, what was the top choice? Like Matthew Stafford. I'm like, okay, I didn't. Oh, that's right. There was a hot minute where he didn't have his contract all kind of worked out, and they figured it out. Once they did that, he was going to be an LA Ram. The idea also that Rodgers was, wanting Sean McVay, and no, that's not happening, Aaron. Sorry.
I'm fairly certain you know the answer to this, and this isn't really a challenging trivia question, but if Rodgers is now the second lowest paid starting quarterback on a non-rookie deal, who is making less?
Is it Fields?
No.
It's not.
2 years, $20 million for Fields. Or I'm sorry, 2 years, $40 million. $20 million per.
Well, okay. Well,
which is why he's not. Yeah, why not in Pittsburgh? He priced himself out of staying a Steeler.
Well, I don't know if
you're not far off.
I know. I was just going to say, like, is it somebody who has alter egos? Is it? Yes.
Let's ride.
Yes.
Let's ride.
Broncos.
Let's ride.
Giants country.
Perfect.
Let's cry.
One more time. Broncos country. Let's ride.
Broncos country. Let's ride.
Perfect. Yeah. Only Wilson is making less in New York.
All right, Giant fans, how you feeling?
You know what? Let's let it play out.
This is the time of year we're not dumping.
Yeah.
If you're a Steeler fan, why can't it work? Okay, feel that way.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's the season of optimism,
Yeah.
hope abound. I mean, I think if you're a Steelers fan, all of the anger directed at Rodgers is kind of unfounded. I mean, if it's because he didn't sign right away or because you felt he was holding you hostage, which he wasn't, I think that's a bit crazy. And I don't know that he's going to make you what you think this team is. I don't know that Rodgers is going to return to 2020 form. The last time we saw him play at that level.
Well, I think the Steeler logic is a little off here because their logic is, have you seen what we had? Aaron Rodgers is better than what we've had. Okay, that's true. But what's the objective here? The objective is ultimately to get to and win the Super Bowl. And then you've got a conference with Burrow and Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and the reigning MVP. Good luck with that. But you know what? You're better at the position, so you feel good about yourself. This is going to be your top story tomorrow nationally, Danger. It's not about James Cook. It's not about the Browns quarterback situations. Maybe some people, certainly we will talk extensively about the Bills tomorrow, but oh my gosh, Aaron Rodgers, why wasn't he throwing at practice? He was only in baseball cap, or there he is. And what did he have to say? And what do his teammates have to say? It's, if you're not a fan of Aaron Rodgers, you might want to just
It's going to be
out.
a zoo.
Yeah.
It is going to be a zoo. Yeah. Well, there you have that deal. So it is the $10 million guaranteed that Rodgers said he would play for on a 1-year deal. And if it goes poorly, which I know Steelers fans may be secretly hoping it does, you can actually find yourself maybe with your franchise quarterback as soon as next April for the 2026 NFL draft, if it goes poorly.
Are we pulling, even though they're in the AFC East, are we pulling for Justin Fields week 1?
Oh, that's going to be fun.
Funny how, the schedule makers really saw the future on this one.
That is going to be fun.
Very kitschy.
Very fun. That is a fun week 1 matchup all of a sudden. And are we pulling for Justin Fields? I'm pulling for Justin Fields.
That's really nice. That's going to be cute, Jets. Get a win in week 1.
Yeah.
You're not catching Buffalo.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Knock yourself out.
That would be fun. We have a little clarity in Indianapolis as far as who will be taking over ownership of the team. We learned that Carly Irsay-Gordon, one of the 3 daughters of Jim Irsay, will succeed her father as the team's CEO. And she will serve also as the principal owner of the team, although she shares it 3 ways with her sisters. Casey Foyt will be the executive vice president, and Kaylin Jackson, the chief brand officer. So between Irsay's 3 daughters, the Indianapolis Colts now have their leadership.
But it sounds like one of the daughters will be front-facing in terms of decisions. And you want to talk about secret winners? Shane Steichen, congratulations, and everybody in management, because I don't know if, you know what, this was Dad's hire. We got to blow it out. We want our own people. No, I think you're going to be okay for a while there. Along with that, too, you're going to have an owner saying, we really need to play Richardson. Richardson may find himself out of a job. If Daniel Jones comes in and we're going to play the better quarterback, or does it work the other way, Danger, where Steichen realizes I've got some rope here. I'm not worried about losing my job. Let's give Richardson a long look.
I think with Richardson, the part that we don't know is how is he viewed by his teammates? How is he in the locker room?
I think we have a rough idea, right?
Yeah, you don't tap out.
Yeah, you haven't heard anybody shouting you down saying, that's ridiculous, this is our guy.
Yeah, you don't tap out. And speaking of fantasy football and names that we'll be kind of paying attention to here through the offseason, it looks as if Nick Chubb will be signing with the Houston Texans if he passes his physical 8 games for the Browns last season. He had that season-ending ugly knee injury week 2 of the 2023 season. So another chapter in the career of Nick Chubb potentially here in Houston.
So they're just going to collect on AFC North running backs. You have Mixon, you have Chubb. Maybe you get somebody from the Raiders. I always liked Nick Chubb.
Great player.
Great player. It's
Great
just such
player.
a devastating injury. Though.
Totally. Great player. Not sure what he has left, but Houston apparently willing to experiment and see. We'll get to 13 Wham Sports Director Buffalo Plus's Mike Catalana next. We'll preview Bill's mandatory minicamp, and of course, a story that I'm sure will be the first question that will be asked tomorrow. Sean McDermott, is James Cook in attendance, or is he not in attendance for mandatory minicamp? We'll get the thoughts of Mike Catalana, the Hall of Famer, stopping by the Sports Bar next on The Fan.
sports guru. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
It's going to feel a little like football season this week with the Bills mandatory minicamp opening up tomorrow. Mike Catalana, 13 Wham, and Buffalo Plus will preview it coming up next year in the Sports Bar. Tonight is Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final. Edmonton is at Florida, series tied at 1 game each. Florida head coach Paul Maurice on his team's Jekyll and Hyde power play.
We've never run a 40% power play home or road, and we don't run a 4% power play home or road. I think I have absolutely no idea why those numbers are so skewed at all. And we've talked about it, and then once we got to the point we couldn't figure it out, we just left it alone. I don't know is the answer.
Rochester Red Wings are off tonight. For the first time, Jacksonville will open a series here tomorrow. Yankees and Mets all as well off tonight. Yankees are in KC tomorrow. The Mets open a series at home Tuesday against Washington. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Always love catching up with 13 Wham Sports Director, Buffalo Plus, Mike Catalana, as the Buffalo Bills get set for their mandatory mini camp tomorrow. And, of course, I think the big question everybody's going to have on their mind, Mike, and the first question that will be asked tomorrow morning of Sean McDermott, is James Cook in attendance?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be there. I don't see any sign pointing to James being there. Listen, maybe we'll get surprised. Maybe he's showing up right now, getting ready for tomorrow, but I don't feel like that has been the case. I think he's trying to get attention here for his contract expectations. And I don't know how much of a response he's getting. So it's a 3-day mini camp. You guys all know it'll end up being 2. They always seem to cancel the 3rd day. But I would not expect to see James Cook there tomorrow.
Well, Mike, this would be correct me if I'm wrong. We haven't had something like this in the Brandon Beane era. A holdout, like at what point does it become a concern? If he's there at training camp, but if he's not, Mike, play this out if indeed this is going to go this direction.
It's not great if it's a hold in, right? If he shows up to report, I'm only here so I won't get fined, but isn't playing, and we've seen guys do that, right? Maybe he's dealing with something injury-wise. Yeah. Whatever the circumstances are, listen, I am all for a player looking out for himself. And I don't think James Cook believes he's, obviously, Beane said it pretty bluntly. Like, they had done all those other deals, and he was like, yeah, we weren't really close, so for right now, we moved on. That didn't sound like it's going to be constant contract talks. And, sometimes I wonder, guys, what does James Cook really want? Does he want? I think he wants a long-term deal like any player would want. I think he wants to be paid what he thinks he wants to be paid. Maybe he doesn't really want it in Buffalo. Maybe he likes it, doesn't love it. Maybe he feels like if I'm going to spend a good chunk of the middle of my career somewhere, I don't necessarily want to be in the cold of Buffalo for the next however long. As great as it's been and playing with Josh Allen and all those things, it is his choice. So he set a number that he believes he can get. I think the best way to get that for him is to play well for the Bills this year and then become an unrestricted free agent. Maybe there's some negotiating that goes on where they promise not to franchise him, though I don't think there's any chance they would franchise him. I don't know, one way or the other, but I do think it's going to be an issue. It's just a matter of how much of one.
That's interesting. You mentioned the franchise tag. It's something that the Bills haven't employed in a long time, certainly not during the Brandon Beane era. Do you think that there's any chance at all? I mean, that's traditionally kind of viewed as a hostile move, and fewer and fewer teams seem to be employing it. But if you do have James Cook playing at a high level in 2025 and you fall short, wouldn't you want to try to bring that guy back while you still have this Josh Allen window open?
Yeah, but to try to make another plan. And, this year was a draft loaded with running backs. And you might want to look at that and say, maybe there would have been a place to draft a running back. But I think it gives them the off season. And I think that, it is a two-way street. At that point, James Cook has a lot of leverage because I don't think there's any chance the Bills would want to put that cap hit because, once you put the tag on a guy, you have to hold that spot. I don't think they in any way would want to pay him on a one-year franchise tag. It's too high of a number. Even if, that running back number has gone up.
Yeah.
I think at this point, guys, somebody I heard Jerry Ostrowski talking, and he was like, hey, you look at that new stadium and you're wondering, does James Cook ever play in that new stadium for the Bills? I don't like the odds of that happening. I still think he plays for the Bills this year because, part of me says, like, is there some sort of a trade or something?
Yeah.
But, like, who's looking to make that deal right now? Who's the team that is saying we need it back? Do the Dallas Cowboys want to do that and look for a back? Do they then give up an asset and then give James Cook the money he wants? Jerry throws those, dollars around like manhole covers, man. He's not big on paying the guys who've been there and doing it. So I don't know what the end game is, but like I said, I think the best route for James Cook to get what he ultimately wants is to be at camp, to participate, to play well, and to then go free and see what he gets on the open market.
Bean did get a second-round pick for Stephon Diggs. Timing a little different, Mike. We were not this deep into the offseason, but let's say, okay, we have to explore a world where James Cook isn't on this roster. Do the Bills have enough with Ray Davis and Ty Johnson and whatever else is behind them?
No, I don't. Listen, I like Ray Davis a lot. But, I was making this point. It's been a running back by committee, right? Ty Johnson's just great at what he does. Ray showed a lot. And obviously James Cook was very good in his role on the team. And if you move everybody up a notch in one way or the other, honestly, you're missing, you want to say Ray Davis is James Cook. Who's Ray Davis? Like, they need that. I don't know. Is Ray Davis ready to take on 75% of the snaps? Like, I don't see that. I think if they were, some reason, feel like they had to move on from James Cook, they'd be in the market for a veteran running back, somebody to come in to help them. I know, like, Frank Gore Jr.'s there. I know they have Darrington Evans there. I feel like they would be back out there saying, who's out there to help us right now? I hope for the Bills' sake it doesn't come to that. I think Cook is a playmaker. I think he's a very good player. But, the Bills have a number. They have a position value. And, he's not Barkley. He's not. I mean, he's a very good player, but Barkley had 2,000 yards last year. So it's what do you want to pay a guy for what he brings to your team? And it feels like they're pretty far apart.
Mike, we learned today through a report that earlier this offseason, the Bills were sniffing around Green Bay and trying to get Jair Alexander to come to Buffalo in way of a trade. Now, knowing what they've done here in the offseason and through the draft, do you close the door completely on that when Alexander gets cut by Green Bay later today, or are you going into the mini camp and training camp saying, you know what, I think we're set at corner?
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I didn't see the exact report, but I'm wondering what the dynamics were, because obviously there was a lot of talk of him being gone really even during last season, and I thought he might be a player the Bills were interested in. I don't know. I don't know if I see that for them right now. Like, what would be the plan behind that? To have him, you're bringing him in. Is he starting for you as opposed to your number one pick? Is he, I don't know. I guess I look at it and I would be surprised. I guess it would be at a right number, but I would assume he's vested veteran anyhow, getting cut at this time, so he's free to go anywhere. I don't think they would be, but I guess you're always looking for talent, and at the right price maybe, but I would think that's not going to be the case.
13 Wham Buffalo Plus's Mike Catalana. Bills mini camp beginning tomorrow. It's our last look at the Bills before training camp at St. John Fisher University. And Mike, this time of year, every year, whoever the top pick is, that's a story. And people will ask you, hey, tell me about Maxwell Harrison. It's not only a story. I think, Mike, to me, that's the most interesting camp battle. I mean, is Harrison going to show enough? And are we believing in Tre'Davious White? We know Tre'Davious White's story. It's hard not to pull for the guy, but how would you assess that matchup here as we're going to be heading to Fisher looking at the corner 2 battle?
I think they want Maxwell Harrison to win the job. I really do think they do. Who doesn't want to see Trey White be that guy and come in, whether he starts the beginning of the year, there is no great downside if week 1 Hairston's not starting, but they think he's close, and they want to get him out on the field and get him some time before you start out against the Ravens in week number 1, right? I mean, he is a rookie, and sometimes that's not the case. Now, the guy on the other side was a 6th-round pick, and I still remember being in L.A. looking down on the field and seeing him get the start over Kaiir Elam when they played the Rams, which is for Benford, the 6th-round guy out of Villanova. So they're not afraid to do that and play a rookie anyhow. But, if Trey White signing with another team, like he did go to the Rams, he did go to Baltimore, I don't think it was the same thing. I think there is a little nostalgia, and everybody loves Trey, to think that, he's going to be revitalized and be that guy again. I think it's a safety net. I think he knows the defense. It's a floor, and that's where you think he could be. But, to me, it's like they want Harrison to be there, just like they want Cole Bishop to absolutely win that other safety spot. Because, DeMar is a, good Buffalo Bill, but, you drafted this kid to be a starter, just like with Hairston. I think you drafted him to start day 1. Let's see if he ends up doing enough to earn that spot and be on the field.
Mike, while we're talking about the Bills' defense, it's the second level of the defense that I'm curious about, because we know that this is likely Matt Milano's last season in Buffalo. He's earned that. We also know that Dorian Williams, played well last year, leading the team in tackles. And I'm wondering, at this stage of their careers, is Dorian Williams better than Matt Milano?
That's a really good point, Danger, because, there were flashes in the playoffs where you saw that old Matt Milano, which is great, right? But, man, there's a lot of snaps and a lot of things you need to do at linebacker. And I think the Bills, based on salary reasons and just talent-wise, and even if Milano is really good, it's hard to depend on him for 17 plus the playoffs. So I think they're both going to play a lot. I don't know if he's better, but, this is what you do. We talk about this draft, develop, and re-sign kind of guy. That's why it's a big year for Dorian Williams to show he can step right in and be that guy. He had to do it a lot last year. But I still think they hold out that hope of seeing those flashes of Milano being just an exceptional player. But I think you're right. I think this is where it's going. Then the question is, how confident are they in Dorian going forward after this because of the way the contracts work out? But, look, the writing is on the wall for that, like you're saying, and we'll see how it plays out. But I think – I don't know if he's better, but I think in long term I think if you looked at him going forward, I think they do have a plan for Dorian Williams long term.
And talking about draft, develop, and re-sign, there are 2 guys on the defensive line, Mike. The last guy being Rousseau, where the Bills, he didn't get top dollar. Maybe he could have gotten more had he headed to free agency or whatever next year, but he's here. The Bills did this a couple years ago with Ed Oliver. What are your thoughts on the defensive line? Because to me, it always seems like whether we're talking about Rousseau or talking about Oliver, it always seems like we're wanting a little bit more out of these guys.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that they're revamping the line or attempting to. Now, look, I had a nice talk with Michael Hoyt at camp last week. Energetic guy, I have not talked to Ogunjobi yet. But you made two major moves there and signed a free agent in Bosa, and you look at that and you say, two are suspended and one's hurt again. So I know Bean is trying, and he'd have the draft picks, and I know they're trying to get the right guys there to help. But part of me is concerned about that too, because, man, it's just frustrating to go out and use the assets and then not have those guys ready to go and help. But I think you got to be fair to Rousseau. Dan and Jenna give me a hard time. I'm like Team Rousseau. I see his talent. I just don't think he's had help around him enough. And, the hope is that Bosa could be that guy on the other side and when he's healthy. And Ed is good, but, I don't think Daquan is what he used to be. So maybe bringing some other guys in will help elevate both of them. It's the same way when I look at the offense and I go, I think Khalil Shakir is a heck of a player. Give him some help on the outside, and I think you'd see his numbers pop. Because his numbers were good, but the numbers would pop. I think the same thing of Rousseau. If Bosa's healthy and making plays, or Jackson becomes one of those guys, I think Rousseau's numbers go up. But absolutely, this team needs more in the D-line. It's just a little frustrating the way the season's going to start.
I feel like where we are this year versus where we were last year, when you look at the wide receiver room, we're in a better place, even though last year we were still in the Diggs hangover, like, oh boy, who are we going to get to replace all that production? And obviously the Bills did just fine, and Josh Allen got his first MVP. You look at this year's group of receivers, and one name in particular that I think could be massive for the Buffalo Bills, the guy that recently signed, Elijah Moore. But with that signing, Mike, I'm curious, do they look at Keon Coleman as like a big slot that they can use in that position, in that role, with a guy like Moore who's got that great speed on the outside?
I think that's where he fits as a player. Now, if you look at the Bills' receiving group, like based on, you got a lot of guys who seem to be fit-wise, guys on the inside in the slot. Like they tried to have Keon be a guy, go down the field as an X and make plays. He didn't make any, really rarely made those plays. I mean, Mac Hollins was a better outside receiver than him. And in fairness to Keon, like Matt Harmon from Reception Perception, we talked to him at the Combine, and we were talking about Keon and what's going on. He's like, he had said the whole time, Keon is a slot guy, big slot player, and the Bills are saying he's going to play on the outside. It's almost like square peg, round hole here a little bit. So in fairness to him, also with Kincaid and Shakir, there's a lot of guys who seem to fit that profile. I don't know how they can split the snaps up, but if you're going to play guys on the outside, they got to be guys who win on the outside. And I don't think Keon on the outside scares anybody. I don't think he's a guy who separates. I don't think he's a guy who has the speed. I don't think that's the strength of his game. So, yeah, I think Elijah Moore's going to get opportunities. I think Josh Palmer's going to get opportunities. I think they're going to try to do – I'm sure they'll probably try to even play Shakir at times a little bit more on the outside to get something out there. But the mix of the room is kind of odd, is the way I look at it. All pass catchers, including the tight end. So I think that part's almost a little unfair to Keon because I don't think that's where his strength is.
Well, we're hoping for a jump from year one to year two for Keon Coleman. What about year 2 to year 3 for Dalton Kincaid? Because I'm sure you get that question a lot. You guys talk about it on Buffalo Plus, but
yeah,
is it just the everybody eats? Has it been health? What are the reasons you might say? Like, what are the things that might have held Dalton Kincaid back here to this point? What's actually the hope for him this year, Mike?
Sometimes when the Bills talk about injuries, and listen, I respect all the players, and I know they play hurt, but sometimes you feel like you want to roll your eyes a little, where it's like, oh, it's an injury, and this is why. And they said that with Spencer Brown, and I give him credit. And then Spencer Brown came back and healthier, and he was really good. They said a lot about Gabe, and Gabe was who he is. Like, they've made a very big point of telling us that Kincaid played through stuff, and I'm sure that he did. I've also, the numbers will tell you it was Josh Allen's fault because he didn't throw in catchable balls. I'm going to be a smart Alex here. He was MVP for everybody else, but when he threw to Dalton Kincaid, he couldn't put it on the money. I don't buy that as much. Like, Kincaid's got to be better. And they sold him to us as a difference-maker tight end to them being a wide receiver. He has not, even though he put up decent numbers as a rookie, was not that guy. And I hear people that want to go, it would have been top 10 all-time rookie stat numbers. Like, most rookie tight ends didn't do very much. It's year 2 and year 3 where the best guys really excel. So let's see where he is. Big hope for him to do that. But if he's healthy, they talked about him getting stronger. We'll see. Some guys don't necessarily look it. I mean, I saw him at camp. He's a big kid, but I didn't appear that he was bigger. But it doesn't mean he's not stronger. So it is a big year for him. Because at the end of this year, they make a decision on the 5th-year option for a number 1 pick. So, I think I'll say reasons, not excuses, for why Kincaid was not that impactful last year. Let's see if he's healthier and more time with Josh Allen if those numbers pick up.
Mike Catalana, 13 Wham Sports and Buffalo Plus, our guest in the sports bar, Danger and Battaglia. We're previewing Buffalo Bills' mandatory minicamp, which gets underway tomorrow. We're going to hear from Sean McDermott tomorrow morning. We're going to hear from Josh Allen later in the afternoon. Mike, what are we looking to learn besides what maybe was on the menu at the wedding a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, I wonder how much, it's funny. I've never, ever, I think, asked anything even close to a personal question, but I guess this is a little more like he just got married, so it's like, hey, congrats. Like, I don't know how he sort of shies away from talking about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll see what it is. Look, they're going to say the same thing about James Cook tomorrow. If he's not there, it's going to be, hey, we wish the best for James. This is part of the NFL, blah, 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 and all those things. I don't know. Josh is pretty tight-lipped about a lot of that stuff, even on the offense. I will say this. He's usually pretty open about the things he wants to work on. Obviously, the man says, I want to work on turnovers, and then goes and has a historic turnover-free, relatively speaking, season. I think the thing he needs to work on, I joked about the thing with Kincaid, is passes down the field, which the guy's got the big arm, but we just don't see that. His numbers are not great on longer passes, so I know that's something he needs to work on. Would help with the explosiveness, especially you mentioned the guys, that could get some separation down the field. He's got to hit those plays. My guess is that's what we might hear from Josh, getting together with some of those players and making some of those bigger plays downfield to make life a little easier for himself and for the entire offense. But, that's the part usually I find that to be, this is what I want to work on. This is what I want to be better at in 25. Let's hear what he has to say about it.
Mike, before we let you go, just great job pulling up that footage of, the Amerks last Calder Cup run, Scotty Metcalf. And I know you had some thoughts, certainly, on, what a loss that is for our town here.
I said in the piece, it was like he was an Americk, right? He was a guy who came in, embraced his role, embraced the city, embraced his teammates. And we all know, Metter was around, that was the guy, and he's a Rochester guy, and we love that in a player, especially for a guy like him who was a first-round draft pick, and he thought his career was going to go one way, and he just embraced that part of it, and it is really sad, I think, with a lot of things with his family and his growing, kids and his son in med school and all the things going on in his life. Somebody, Rich Becker used to work with and said, he sent me a note, and I think he tweeted it too. He's like, Jody is Mr. Americk, and he is an all-time great player. But, man, Metcalf is also a Mr. Americk because he just embraced everything about it. And I've had people reach out just about the things he said to them, when you'd see him out and about. So it's a big loss for the franchise just because he's one of those Rochester guys who a true Rochester American, and it's just so sad to hear. And I feel for his family and his kids because a lot of great things are probably in store for their family, and Metter's not going to be with us in this life now, and that's a loss for his family.
Mike, Bills minicamp getting underway. Mandatory minicamp starting tomorrow. Tell us about the coverage that we can expect out of 13WM Sports and Buffalo Plus.
Yeah, we'll be doing our podcast probably from up there tomorrow, working on that. We're also we added something to our array of podcasts where we're doing something called the League with Buffalo Plus. So each week we're going to be talking about more league issues, some that certainly pertain to the Bills. Probably get some salary cap noise in there as the league's trying to make it real. We tell people all the time why the salary cap's not real. Then the NFL comes out and goes, we have to make it more real because these teams that spend money are just having too big of an advantage. So we'll be talking about all those things. But tomorrow, my guess is we're going to be talking about Josh and James and all the good things that go on at the mandatory. Got to be there. It's mandatory camp, so we got to be showing up.
Yeah. Boy, the Pirates are a tough team. That's a really, really tough weekend for you there, Mike.
I'm sorry. I was busy with a lot of stuff. What went on? Did something go on with the Pirates?
They swept your Phillies.
Oh, okay. But it's still June, right?
Last I checked, yeah.
Yeah, I just pointing that out. That's all. 4.5 lead.
It's June. I mean, since probably no team's been swept by the Pirates in like 40 years, that was probably a big deal. And I think the Phillies, scoring like 3 runs in 3 games or whatever it was is probably pretty bad. But
as a friend, I'm just lending my hand out to you. That must have been really tough. I'm sorry about that.
Listen, while I appreciate the reaching out, just so you know, I'm fine. I'm not a Mets fan. I don't need that. I'm fine. I know what my team's going to be. They'll get their act together. They'll be really good in the playoffs this year, and they'll be fine. They'll be fine. They'll be in the playoffs. Obviously, we know that. So
I'm not a Mets fan. I don't need that.
Yeah, I mean,
God, I love that.
Much.
That
they
is
need
so good.
Oh my God! By the way, I will say I'm going to give the Mets some credit for something. You deserve better than a split against the Dodgers. I thought they outplayed them that entire series. I think they probably could have swept that series. Now, I mean, you've been playing the dregs like the Phillies did, but it was an impressive split. It should have been 3, maybe 4 against the Dodgers. But, it's June, buddy. It's June. Let's see where we are in September.
Wow. I feel pretty good after this conversation.
Your team is the best in the National League. What's he going to say? Oh, the Mets suck. No, they don't. They don't suck.
No,
They're a good team.
I thought he was going to come back with, play Colorado again, yeah.
You know what? It's just the fall's going to be so much fun. It's going to be so much fun.
I'm talking fall, autumn, yes. Autumn's going to be so much fun for the Mets. If that's
Yes. A precipitous drop, as they say. You wait. It's coming.
Appreciate the time as always, buddy. Talk soon.
All right, fellas.
There he is, 13Web Sports Director, the Hall of Famer for Buffalo Plus. That's Mike Catalana, Philly guy.
To recap the beginning of the conversation, he doesn't think James Cook's going to be there.
I don't think he's going to be there either. I think there are plenty of guys that are holding out for their contracts that aren't showing up to mandatory minicamps. They'll eat the fine, make a statement, and not show up. I don't think he's going to be there. I mean, and Sean McDermott's going to have to field all the questions about it, and it'll probably come down to we're working with the guys that are here.
Yeah, the talking points. We're working with the guys that are here. It's an opportunity for Frank Gore Jr. or Darrington
step up. We need others to step up. Next man up. Yeah, I mean, you already kind of know what's going to be said if he's not there. I don't think he's going to be there, and that's business. Hey, it's his choice. It's of course it's mandatory, so we want him here. We're concerned about that.
He's got the Bills in this regard. Mike's right. We like Ray Davis. We like Ty Johnson. That's not the same if everybody goes up, one level up here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know that the Bills view it that way. You could look at James Cook versus Ray Davis and say one is just way more talented than the other. But I don't know that they care about talent at that position as much as they care about production at that position. If they're looking at just production, well, then Ray Davis can probably get you the production that you got from James Cook next season.
I can't say that.
We don't know.
I mean, like,
we need to see more of Ray Davis is what we need to see because we didn't see enough.
Well, it's a different. It worked last year, Danger, because they all had a different skill set. The weaknesses of James Cook, pass blocking, third down, picked up by the other two. You can't match the speed of James Cook.
No, he's a good player.
Yeah.
He's a good player. He's a talented player. Can you find somebody like that next year in the draft? Can you elevate a Ray? Will we see more of Ray Davis this year, knowing that Cook may not be around after this year? It's interesting. Clearly, one is more talented than the other. There's a reason why Ty Johnson is a third down back and not an every down back. And James Cook, when he is on the field, boy, he is fun. He's got that speed. He's got that. He's got that in his DNA, man. Dalvin was a great running back too, but their flame shines bright, and then it just starts to dim. With Dalvin, it was the injuries, and with James, I think it's going to be where is he post Buffalo. I agree with the assessment that James might just be looking at, hey, do I want to spend the prime years of my career in Buffalo? And in that regard, asking for $15 million, what's the worst that can happen? My contract runs out and I go somewhere else and make the money that I believe I deserve because somebody will pay him $15 million.
Yeah, we don't want to explore that. Like, why wouldn't somebody want to be here? We haven't had this in the Bean era.
You're right.
That's the thing. This is new.
We'll come back with more next in the Sports Bar, including Keith McPherson from our Odyssey Sports sister station, WFAN in New York City. He hosts KM to AM. We're hearing Jay Wright has told the New York Knicks, nah, I'm good.
I'm just fine.
Yeah.
Didn't get off of first base there, which means, oh, my gosh.
They really didn't have a plan. They really didn't have a plan.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
You didn't have a plan. Also, I'm going to give you a take on the Buffalo Bills because if you could go back in time, this time last year, would you have bet Josh Allen as the MVP? Well, of course you would have. I'm looking at something right now. It's not the MVP, but hear me out on this. Could the Buffalo Bills have an award winner they haven't had since the 80s? I'll explain.
We'll get to that and more. Your calls are welcome at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326.
When you wake up through the Odyssey app and make your mornings as thrilling as a game-winning touchdown. WROC AM, WBEE HD2, and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Bills players back in town. The first practice for the mandatory portion of minicamp. That's coming up tomorrow to end by Thursday. The Green Bay Packers have officially released corner Jair Alexander. Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight. Edmonton at Florida. Series tied at 1 game each. Edmonton head coach Chris Knobloch wants to keep it simple.
You still have to play on instincts. You still have to play to your strengths. And we believe our strengths is passing the puck around and sharing it and making high percentage plays. And sometimes there are mistakes, and that's part of the game. There's never going to be a perfect game. I think it's important for our players to play off their instincts.
Rochester Red Wings off tonight with the rain. That's probably a good thing. Jacksonville coming to town tomorrow night. Yankees and Mets begin play tomorrow. The Yankees are in KC. The Mets host Washington. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Tomorrow it will be football on the field, in the classroom, as it begins the 3-day mandatory minicamp.
The Packers and corner Jair Alexander officially divorcing today after 2 injury-plagued seasons and an offseason of contract talks and trade speculation.
You think a team like the Bills will take a swing at this guy?
Touchdown! Nick Chubb!
Unbeaten following losses. That remains intact as the Thunder win game 2 big. 123-107 over the Indiana Pacers.
And tonight's Stanley Cup Final takes center stage. Game 3.
Let's do that hockey.
Let's do that hockey again.
Mike Danger.
You're the guy that used to call the radio station and, hey, look to order a pizza. Click.
Hanging up.
Gene Battaglia.
When I'm telling you, I must have blacked out. I don't remember doing that. Obviously, I did it. It's right there. I can't deny that.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Tell me.
No, it was AI. That was AI.
Tell me.
Yeah, well.
Did you and the executive producer crack the brose? Did you crack into your winnings? Did victory taste as sweet as a glass of rosé?
I'm happy to report that box, it's making its way to Yarmouth, Massachusetts, coming up in 3 weeks. So
let's see. That's
a game plan. We're saving it. And then with the salt air and you just sit back and you relax and you say, I can't believe I actually did it.
You want to bet?
Want to bet with Danger. And if he missed it last week, it was
you were definitely not gracious in victory. I'll put that out there.
It was a weird day where you at the last second got pulled off the show. Derek stepped in. And then as we're going, Derek's like, oh, my gosh, Rogers signed with Pittsburgh. And I'm so happy. But I wasn't there with you in person.
Right.
So what did I do? I did the old radio bit. I literally picked up the phone and called you live on the air. Hey, Danger, you got me? Danger.
Is this? Yeah.
Yeah, you lost the bet. You lost the bet. Box wine. Bring it to me now, buddy. Hanging up.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Although I can't call you a juvenile because I want to wish everybody today a nice June 9th. I mean, we all have our moments where we just kind of...
Can I just point out that was Dandelion pointing that out?
Oh, I knew before I came in here.
Yeah.
Like, I've done it. I've written the date enough times today where I'm like, oh, today's a nice day. Hope everybody's having a nice day. Dandelion. Yeah, get your mind out of the gutter. Dandelion.
What's going on? Terrible influence at Dandelion.
Making nice jokes about the numbers 6 and 9 are immature. I never want to grow up. Keith McPherson from KM to AM. You hear him on our Odyssey Sports sister station, WFAN in New York City, stopping by the sports bar in 15 minutes. What exactly was the New York Knicks' plan as they were letting go of their coach, Tom Thibodeau, last week?
I'm afraid they don't have a plan. Oh, no. I'm afraid this was emotion by the owner.
Oh, no.
What is their plan? Like, if reports are like, Jay Wright, nah, I'm good. Dallas, oh, you want to talk to Jason Kidd? Yeah, we'll think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Danger, last time the Buffalo Bills had a defensive rookie of the year. A lot of us weren't even alive. 1987. 87 before the Super Bowl years. Penn State linebacker Shane Conlon. Oh,
good player.
Shane Conlon.
Good player.
Burned brightly. It ended a little too quick. He didn't make it through all 4 Super Bowls, but Shane Conlon, worthy of that selection in 87. Could this be the year the Bills finally get another one? Now, I understand here up front. I'm painting you the best case scenario, but hear me out. Maxwell Harrison is at plus 3,500, plus 3,500 to win the Defensive Rookie of the Year award. Now, Christian Benford, keeps at the level of playing the corner 1, and let's say Harrison wins the job. Guess what? A lot of balls are going to be going in the direction of the rookie. The kid is known for speed. Could he make splash plays that would impress voters? That camp battle between Trey White and Maxwell Harrison, that is the top battle I'm paying attention to at Fisher this summer.
So what does Defensive Rookie of the Year look like for Max Harrison from a statistical standpoint if he wins it? Is it 5 interceptions, 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that? Why wouldn't that be attainable for any corner?
Yeah, you're right. I think if Benford continues to play the way he's played, you test Harrison, you test the rookie. We know he has speed. Does he have technique? And the idea of him with the ball in his hand after a turnover is electric. It's a lot of fun to think about. 2 touchdowns, maybe 3 touchdowns. And I think if you get a few picks over the course of the season with that, with some electric plays, some electric highlight reel footage, I can't say no to this idea.
And corner is a position, Danger, where you could win this award. So you don't have to go back far. 2022, Sauce Gardner won it with the Jets. That was the year that the Jets had both winners on offense and defense. And oh my God,
they're still there.
They're still there.
Haven't won anything, but they're still there.
Yeah. And then you have Marshawn Lattimore with the Saints, who there was a period he was right in the argument for the best. 2 years before that, Marcus Peters with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that ended. And then you have to go all the way back to 98 for Charles Woodson.
All right, so it's not impossible. And if Harrison wants to be considered elite, you put him in the category with some of the names you just mentioned. It's not. You can't rule it out. You can't rule it out. Just a couple of massive plays, pick 6 or 2, and I think he's probably in the conversation. First, he has to start. First, he has to get that camp battle, win that camp battle, and get on the field. And I have a feeling, I'm like Catalana, I have a feeling they want him on the field week 1. They drafted him to be on the field week 1.
Who's the only current Buffalo Bill that won that award?
Defensive Player of the Year?
Go offense or defense. I'm not going to say it's either or.
Oh. What, Bosa?
Yeah, Joey Bosa.
Really?
2016 won it.
Wow. I guess we're just so enamored with the injury history that we forget, at least for one season, he was really, really good.
2016 is a really, really long
time ago.
Yeah.
Well, just the way he came into the league was kind of tumultuous, right? He came in, held out, didn't show up right away.
Right. It was over something stupid. It was just over, okay, are you going to pay my money on the 1st or the 15th? It really was like, you're getting your money. It was just over dumb language like that. Well, this is his kind of last shot, the way I kind of view it for Joey Bosa. Like you want something, and yeah, he'll be there with a baseball cap tomorrow.
Yeah, I think with Harrison back to corner, get him on the field week 1. I mean, I know that there'll be a quote unquote competition, and I'm sure in the preseason we'll see him make mistakes. Fine, make those mistakes. I mean, we saw Trey White make mistakes his rookie season in the preseason. And we got to learn a little bit more about how he operates, what makes him tick, how emotional he is, how he wears those emotions on his sleeve. I want to see as much of Harrison as possible.
Well, Mike Catalana brought up a good point, because if you're thinking, well, it's a long season, Harrison's not used to the 18 weeks, 17 games plus the playoffs potentially. No, actually, the Bills just did this with Christian Benford. Benford, as a rookie, started against the Rams, so they will do that. Sean McDermott will always lead on the side of the veteran, but whether that's Christian Benford, whether that's on the offensive line, they are guys that they will start here as rookies. And if all things are equal, you're starting Hairston over Tre'Davious White.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. That'll be a lot of fun to watch when we get to a training camp here at the end of July. When are we getting dates, by the way? Do we have dates?
Well, no, but if you're going by every other year,
end of July is vague, but
that would be Thursday because McDermott doesn't want to put. What's the focus this week? It's on minicamp.
Right.
And the one hint here, Danger, is that they put out their media schedule that players are available on Thursday. So they're inviting the media down on Thursday. So every year, with the exception of last year, McDermott on Wednesday, okay, we got our work in. A lot of teams will do this week. Okay, see ya. Have a good summer, boys. But the Bills, knowing that they had a lot of questions last year, put in the extra work. I guess ultimately it comes down to Josh Allen. Does he want to put in the extra work with the guys here?
So, whereas in years past they have cut it short this year because there's media availability on Thursday.
I'm wondering if they don't. But to answer your question, at the end of minicamp, that's usually when we get the training camp schedule that'll follow. Okay, here's the way it's going to be laid out. And if you're going by years past, it would be July 24th would be the first day out of Fisher.
Which I want to say, was it the Steelers that put out their first day? Because the Steelers, everybody's going to be paying attention to what goes on at Steelers training camp this year. Yeah, I think they're opening up on that same day as well. All right, that's exciting stuff to look forward to. Tomorrow, mandatory minicamp gets underway, and we'll catch up with our buddy Matt Perino covering the Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard, making his usual Tuesday afternoon visit at 3:25 with his report. He'll be our ears and eyes in Orchard Park for the Buffalo Bills mandatory minicamp.
Yeah, it's going to be like a fun week. If anybody wants to join us, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. I don't think we're past this Knicks story, the fact that what is the plan? And there's legitimate reports that there was a feeler put out to Jay Wright, and Jay Wright's like, no, I'm retired, which just leads me to believe, oh my gosh, they didn't grease the skids. They didn't put out feelers like, hey, if we were ever, like, you would have thought you don't fire Tibbs unless you have a plan of who you wanted to hire. I can't stomach the fact that they're going to go through this whole process.
I can't remember who put it out there. Somebody made mention that the reason why the Knicks got good in recent years is that their owner was preoccupied in building the Sphere in Las Vegas. And now that that's complete and that's a self-contained unit that's, making money hand over fist, now he can be a meddlesome owner once again.
It's funny, like the Yankee dynasty was built because George Steinbrenner was suspended for a year. And like it didn't allow Gene Michael to do what he wanted. By the time he got back, I'm like, oh, this might actually be kind of working here. Like, that's the thing that sucks. When your team's winning, you forget you have a, I was going to almost swear there, you have a bad owner.
Yeah. Winning is one hell of a deodorant. Ask the Cincinnati Bengals. And apparently ask the New York Knicks. We'll go to New York next and talk to our buddy Keith McPherson from our Odyssey Sports sister station, WFAN in New York, KM to AM, his show. We'll talk Knicks, we'll talk Yankees, we'll talk Mets with Keith McPherson next on The Fan.
You're listening. Into electrifying sports action. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
It's going to feel a little like football season coming up this week. The mandatory minicamp for the Buffalo Bills beginning tomorrow. The Green Bay Packers today officially releasing corner Jair Alexander. Game 3 of the Cup final tonight. Edmonton at Florida. Series tied at 1 game each. Florida head coach Paul Maurice on his team's Jekyll and Hyde power play.
We've never run a 40% power play home or road, and we don't run a 4% power play home or road. I think I have absolutely no idea why those numbers are so skewed at all. And we've talked about it, and then once we got to the point we couldn't figure it out, we just left it alone. I don't know is the answer.
Rochester Red Wings are off tonight. Jacksonville coming to town tomorrow. Yankees and Mets also off tonight. The Yankees will begin a series in KC tomorrow. The Mets opening up a homestand against Washington on Tuesday. Gene Battaglia in the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
Pull up a stool and join us. 585-866-4FAN. 866-4326. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Let's go to New York City. Talk to our Odyssey Sports sister station, WFAN in New York City. KM to AM is the show. Keith McPherson is our guest in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Keith, always appreciate you making time for us and joining us here in the Sports Bar. We were floored last week when we heard the news that Tom Thibodeau was fired, even though the team did something they hadn't done in 25 years. And now, with each passing day, boy, it sure seems more and more apparent that they didn't really have a plan to replace Tibbs, did they?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. No. James Dolan is the type to come back and say, we don't need a plan. I don't need to see this current plan for any longer go through. It didn't go through. We need headlines. We need change. We need a new voice that can get us over a hump that this guy couldn't get us over, and that we heard he couldn't get the Bulls over and the Timberwolves over. It's in his MO, right? So I feel like Dolan came back and he had those exit meetings with the players, and he had already heard from so many outside people that, hey, this isn't the guy. And what I've been saying about Dolan, and you always got to be careful with what you say about James Dolan in the city, because, might not be able to get back into the Garden, depending on what you say. But I'm like, Colin Cowherd and Nick Wright pointed to how he was preoccupied with the Sphere in Vegas and building that. And that is how Leon Rose and World Wide West and Tom Thibodeau over the last 5 years were able to create this functional Knicks team that had success. And now that project is done, he's back and he's sitting under the basket. His seats are right under the basket. He wears his Darkwing Duck cap. It's like a Dick Tracy cap. It's like one of those big build hats. Like, I don't know what he thinks he is, but I know he was super disappointed because they didn't get to the finals. And he, for the first time in a long time, was a part of planning for the finals, being favored to get there. And with that disappointment, heads have to roll. You know how it is in business, especially in New York. You don't get it done. Somebody's got to pay for it. Somebody's got to be the GOAT for it. Someone's got to be the scapegoat.
Well, Keith, does Dolan have a point? If it was his decision ultimately, does he have a point? The idea that, okay, maybe there is somebody better out there that can lead this team. We do have other instances. People have pointed to Golden State. They didn't take off until Kerr, got in control. Like, in terms of the next head coach, what do you think that coach should do that maybe Tibbs wasn't doing?
They're going to say that Tibbs played his guys into the ground, ran his guys into the ground, played his guys too many minutes. Someone called into my show with a ridiculous stat about, how many more minutes the Knicks starters played compared to the teams they played, the Pistons and the Celtics and the Pacers in the, in the playoffs. And I forget, but it was a lot. Like, when you add up the minutes, it was something like 8 extra games, like 8 to 10 extra games that these guys had played minutes-wise, wear and tear on your body, where you get late in the season. And they were healthy this year. They weren't healthy last year. Who's to say they'd be healthy next year doing that same thing? Mikal Bridges spoke out about it. I think we've heard a ton about how Karl Anthony Towns has gotten Tom Thibodeau fired twice. I think the next coach has to have a deeper bench, which Leon Rose and World Wide West, those guys upstairs, have to get him a deeper bench and a bench that he trusts. That's the thing with Tom Thibodeau. He did not trust those guys on the bench until he had no other choice. So, they got to find a guy that'll play the bench and a guy that can take on New York. This is the hardest market to play in. The Garden itself, they have a ton of security measures and different rules. Like, that's why Jason Kidd, now we're hearing there's mutual interest. It makes sense for Kidd. He's a splashy name. He played for the Knicks. He's coached a bunch of different teams. He's young. He's going to be respected by players. And, of course, if you give him a bench, he's going to play the bench.
Keith, I hear everything that you're saying, but the biggest part about what you're saying that I think holds true with the Knicks, and you could replace Tibbs with Jason Kidd or whoever you want to replace him with, but you still have a guy in Cat who needs to play better defense given his size and given what you would expect out of a guy with that size. You still have Brunson out there who's a killer but also a liability defensively. I mean, you still need to beef up this roster.
Yeah. But you can't say that type of stuff. These guys are local guys, right? Brunson grew up in Jersey for a little bit before going to Illinois. Cat is a Jersey guy. His mom was a Knicks fan. Jalen Brunson's dad is on the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Like you don't put it on the two All-Stars. You don't put it on the players that were out there that played terrible in the elimination game, and both of them don't play enough defense where, like, they're both a liability. You can't say that, though. It's all on the coach. He's got to coach it out of them, right? He's got to find a way to get that out of these guys. But I don't think they can. I don't think Jason Kidd can. And what I've been saying is, okay, we all can point and say, now, this was done without a plan. And if you put plan B into place and they don't get back to the Eastern Conference Finals, it's a failure. If they get to the Eastern Conference Finals and lose, it's a failure. Like, they have to take the next step and go to the finals, because when you fired Tom Thibodeau, you put out a statement that said, we're singularly focused on winning a championship for our fans. Oh, really? The New York Knicks? Now all of a sudden you guys are the Yankees? Interesting.
Well, we brought up the Yankees, how they didn't get good until George was actually suspended for a year. So, but at least they already had some wins under their belt there. Keith McPherson, KM to AM, WFAN. You brought up Kidd. I think that would excite a lot of Knick fans. I'd like to see how that would work. If I'm Dallas, I'm not just saying, all right, yep, go ahead. We're letting you out of your contract. What would that look like, Keith, in terms of a trade, do you think?
I don't know. I don't see why Dallas would do it. And things were going so bad, and then all of a sudden you got some good, right? You trade Luka, and fans are showing up with caskets to American Airlines Arena. Fans are leaving the arena. They took a huge hit doing that. And then somehow Adam Silver and the basketball gods got together and said, let them get the number one pick for this kid Cooper Flagg, who everyone that knows of him says, yeah, he's going to be the number one pick, a lock, a surefire thing. They've got that guy coming. Why would you want to leave Jason Kidd, the legacy that you have out there in Dallas as a player and a coach who brought them to the finals last year? Why would you want to leave? Like, this kid is about to ignite the franchise. And, like, Kyrie will eventually be back, and AD is there, and you have some other pieces. You want to leave for a Knicks job where the bar is get to the finals, or you could get fired in a couple of years? Like, I think he'd be better off to stay in Dallas. But maybe the Dallas Mavericks are that crazy, and maybe Nico is that crazy to just keep going and say, you know what, we need somebody to coach Cooper Flagg, right? This is a whole new era. Jason Kidd was the older era, and hey, Jason, if you want to go, so be it. And I don't know, the Knicks don't have any picks to give because they gave up all their picks for Mikal Bridges. They're going to have to move some players. I'm not sure exactly who that'll be.
Keith, what about the window of opportunity in the Eastern Conference if you're the New York Knicks, knowing that Boston's going to be probably without Jason Tatum for the majority of next year? They might be down, knowing that, it was Indiana that beat you to get to the finals, but we're kind of seeing Indiana play against OKC very much like they were against the Knicks. Like, you shut down Halliburton and there's not a lot there. What about this window of opportunity? Is it realistic to think that with the talent that they have and maybe a couple of other pieces with the new coach, that it could be the Knicks looking like the best team in the East in 2026?
Yeah, I can't say that. I think whoever coaches this team could win another 50 games next year, right? Like, I've watched them closely, and I think they're going to grow from this experience this year. They're going to be a better group. They stand to get a better bench with some actual legitimate pieces off the bench. But what I'll say is it's unpredictable. Kenny Atkinson being the head coach of the Cavaliers propelled them to the 1 seed in the East. I didn't know Tatum was going to go down, so I guess you moved the Celtics out, but don't completely count them out.
Sure.
The Pistons are on the rise. The Pistons are looking at the Knicks saying, we gave them a 6-game series. We beat them in the Garden. Like, we're a couple pieces away. And you can never count out the rest of the teams in the East, whether it's, I don't know. I can't call it. I just think with the Knicks, though, they're in this 2 to 3 year window. And let's say this is year 1 or year 2, because they had a good team last year. Like, they are rolling the dice. They've seen other teams do it, like Dwayne Casey being fired with the Raptors after them getting to the playoffs consistently but not getting over the hump. And then, boom, it's Nick Nurse and it's Kawhi Leonard. Even the Warriors, you keep hearing their name pop up because Steve Kerr was the coach to take them further. They're rolling the dice here because they don't have a lot of time. And I understand it. No risk it, no biscuit. But I will say that, like, the Knicks have had terrible luck. This could be the beginning of the end as well. This could be the beginning of the demise, and this is an inflection point that we'll look back at for years to come as far as, hey, did they make the right hire? Were they able to go forward? I think there's a chance that they may never get further than Tom Thibodeau just took them.
Keith McPherson, WFAN, KM to AM is the show, which we invite you to check out inside the Odyssey app. Keith, of course, right after this happens real quick, right? Every year we get the finals, we get the draft, we get free agency, we get the meat market, the swapping here, and July 1st right around the corner. What would you like to see the Knicks do? I'll start. I'll tell you what I don't want to see them do. I'm not interested in Kevin Durant or anything that might be past the prime date there. What do you think the Knicks will do in terms of shopping coming up in July here?
Change that starting five. We started to get a lot of bad numbers about how the starting five played together. And even though they have 2 all-star starters, they have what they call Wingstop and OG Anunoby, big money guy, and the Iron Man and Mikal Bridges. Like, they were forced to take Josh Hart out of the starting lineup. He shouldn't have been a starter anyway. He should be coming off the bench. Okay, so take him out. He's an undersized player. And then you put Mitchell Robinson in, who was great defensively, but he's half a player because he's got no offensive game. They can hack a Mitch, and we saw him get better, but that's a liability. They need another shooter. They need a legit 2 guard. They need somebody that can shoot. Obviously, Cat can shoot. OG can throw up some threes. Josh Hart is timid with the threes, Brunson, but I think they need like a scoring offensive threat. And maybe they don't find that. Maybe they make Brunson the number 2 and then put somebody on the ball, because Brunson seemed to always dribble the air out of the ball, and everybody in the world knew it was his shot to take. So maybe they switch something up with their guards, or they get another big, maybe a big that can score, and then they move Cat more to a 4. I don't know. They got to play with that starting five. The starting five as it was in the Eastern Conference Finals was not good enough. They've got to move some pieces around with what they have and maybe add somebody that can score and play defense. Not Kevin Durant, though. Not Kevin Durant, not Giannis. I think 1 piece for that starting 5 and then maybe 2 pieces for the bench.
Keith, let's talk a little bit about your Yankees who find themselves in first place. But when you look at the back half of that lineup, you're like, ooh, and you've got some injury concerns, a couple of surprises on the roster. Is this team for real, or are they benefiting from a down AL East year?
Yeah, I mean, they're for real. Baseball is just going to baseball, and we're in it now. We're in June now. Nobody can say it's still early. We've got enough of a sample size here. And the Yankees, they did beat up on some teams, some lesser teams, and the AL is weak. But the rivalry got reignited this weekend with the Boston Red Sox. And as soon as you step into a series like that, taking your opponent lightly, deciding to take guys out of the lineup for scheduled rest, deciding to leave starters in for longer than they need to be, going to certain guys in the bullpen, and just, the Yankees stick to the script. And that's what pains me about them. I think they have a ton of talent, even with some guys hurt and some guys coming back, but they will die hard on their decisions. Like, they will write a script for how they want to go into the game. And then when they're in the game, it's hard for them to freestyle. It's hard for them to go off script. And that's how you get got. And that's how you give up 1 million runs in the weekend, and a scrappy Red Sox team with some veterans and some young players and a manager who's always dialed in. He's always locked in for this rivalry. They got. They lost 2 out of 3, and really they could have lost that first game Friday too. The Red Sox beat the Yankees. After that first inning of Friday, the Red Sox won the entire series, and you kind of tip your cap to them. They're not going to be a threat though. Like, they're going to stub their toe elsewhere when there's not 47,000 fans yelling and screaming in the building. The Yankees do have Aaron Judge, and I really feel like this is the year that they have put enough talent around Judge that when they get him to October, walk him if you want to walk him, but I expect him to show up this year in the postseason for sure.
Keith, I'm a Met fan, and it's the rare thing where, like, okay, you swept an opponent. I'm not really excited. The Rockies may be the worst team we've ever seen, and so the Mets, can't blame them for who's on their schedule. My question is about their pitching, which has been great so far, but some of these guys, Canning, Tyler McGill, Peterson, do you think this is sustainable, or should the Mets actually, when the trade deadline comes around, see what's out there in terms of a frontline starter?
Yeah, the Rockies are the worst team. Well, they're on pace to be the worst team in history. They're the worst team in the league. They took the first game of that series from the Yankees Memorial Day weekend. The Mets didn't lose to them, and especially being in the National League, don't lose to the worst team. The Mets right now are the best team in the National League, and it's not because of Juan Soto. Pete Alonso has been great. Lindor has been great, but it's because of Jeremy Hefner's pitching lab. I honestly don't believe it. I was on air when they signed Griffin Canning. We laughed it off. A caller called and was frustrated. I forget what other free agent pitcher was still out there that they wanted them to sign, and they signed Griffin Canning for like $4 million, and he's been great. David Peterson's been great. Kodai Senga, now they're in the six-man rotation. Senga needs a little extra rest. He's been great. I think, with Sean Manaea coming back and Frankie Montas, they will have the luxury of deciding whether they want to add another starter or just beef up the bullpen. The bullpen's been good too. So I give credit to David Stearns as well. He's got an eye for this type of stuff. He can spot these guys and bring them in. Like Paul Blackburn against the Dodgers. This guy's first outing. He's got to face the Dodgers, and the Dodgers were coming off of, the top four in their lineup going 0 for 4 against the Yankees. I thought he was going to get smacked around. These guys have a plan. These guys, they throw the pitches they want to throw. And they've been great for the Mets. And, you play who you play, but the Mets dominated them, didn't lose a game to them, and you got to feel good about that.
Keith, forgive us because we're in Western New York and we don't have Major League Baseball like you do in the city with the Mets and with the Yankees.
The Blue Jays, the Toronto Blue Jays.
Close, but not quite on our radar.
Well, we had him for a couple summers.
Yeah. I'm just curious because we're just lapping up every bit of offseason news we can get our hands on with the NFL. And I know in the city there's probably not a lot of chatter around what the Jets and Giants off seasons have looked like, but we do have news here in the last few days where it's like, week 1 is going to be interesting when you have Justin Fields going up against the Jets' old quarterback and Aaron Rodgers.
Oh yeah, first time ever teams have swapped quarterbacks and they'll meet the first week out of the season. I was saying, how do they flex that to Sunday Night Football? That can't be 1 o'clock at MetLife Stadium. I think Aaron Rodgers is done, and I think we saw some of that last year, and I think we're really going to see more of that this year. Now, he's going to be in a much better coach situation. They're going to have to coach and scheme and plan to get the most out of Aaron Rodgers, get the ball out of his hand, and he's got to buy in. But as far as the Jets are concerned, the biggest thing I keep saying about the Jets is there's no news. There's no headlines. There's no LOL Jets. There's nothing about Woody Johnson. There's nothing that we can report on. They have been very tight-lipped over there. It seems like they're all business. I'm like, wow, what a welcome change. I think there was a report that Aaron Glenn added Bible study for the players, and I'm like, this is a headline. I'm like, this is not a Jets headline. Usually there's something going wrong, a player doing something laughable coming out of there. They are very buttoned up, and they're trying to be a real adult franchise, a real NFL organization.
Did the Giants get it right bringing back the GM and the head coach, Keith? Because it's certainly a job anybody would want going in there. But to me, I was a little surprised they brought back Dable and Shane.
I'm going to say no because I think they're still going to get smoked this year. I think they win 5 games max, and I don't know which ones they're going to steal because they have the toughest strength of schedule. They have to face teams with quarterbacks and offenses and defenses and coaches that have been in the playoffs, that have been doing this, that don't need to be put together. They are still very much putting the pieces of the puzzle together. I give them credit for having a masterful draft. I felt like they won night 1, getting Abdul Carter, not reaching for Shedeur Sanders, but then knowing that Jackson Dart was the guy they had their eye on and not letting someone else steal him, trading back in and saying, this is the guy we want. They got the quarterback of the future. They've got a edge rusher that I think is going to make an impact this year, but they've got Russell Wilson at quarterback. He's another guy that I think is done. I think this has got to be his last year or next to last year. I just think the game is too fast. These quarterbacks are too athletic, too smart. this league changes so quickly. There's a ton of film on Aaron Rodgers. There's a ton of film on Russell Wilson. Their old tricks don't work anymore. But here's what I'll say about, Tom Thibodeau was fired, right? Buck Showalter got fired in 2022 after, leading a Mets team, or 2023, but after leading a Mets team back to the postseason and winning a bunch of games. Like, for those guys to survive the season they just had, it's incredible. But I just think it was the wrong decision, because ultimately you're going to have another bad year. And then what are you going to do? Are you going to change your plan? Are they going to be forced to play Jackson Dart at some point this season? Jameis Winston is there as well. Tommy DeVito is still around. But, their plan is that we have enough quarterbacks in this room that this young kid can develop. But you know what? The fans are going to get loud. And when you're 3-10, they're going to want to see this kid. So let's see. This regime is safe, though, because, Mara doesn't want to be the guy overreacting like Dolan. He said he's going to give these guys time. They have a 5-year contract. He's seeing out that 5-year contract.
Keith, tell everybody about KM to AM, listening in the free-to-download Odyssey app, and the work that you're doing at WFAN there in the city.
Yeah, my name is Keith McPherson. There's the KM. My show goes every night from the end of the night into the morning hours, so that's where we get KM to AM. Tonight is the full 5-hour vehicle because the Yankees are off. I get 7 p.m. to 12. I take as many calls as I can. I talk to any and everybody about everything possible. And, I don't have any sticks. I don't have any games to play. I don't have any gimmicks, but I think we get real sports conversation between real fans. And then we have some real moments as well. And I'm blessed. A lot of people have been rocking with me over the years. You guys have reached out to have me on your show. So clearly I'm doing something right as I figure it out, being a young guy in the game.
Yeah, well, Keith, keep up the great work. Let's do this again sometime. And we couldn't figure it out, the Knicks here, so appreciate your insight on what they were thinking.
They can't figure it out. They're scrambling over there. I'm waiting for their press conference. That's another thing. They get to hide. The rest of us don't get to hide from the mics. They never have to get in front of mics.
That's right. We'll be watching intently to see what exactly transpires there out of the Garden. Keith, appreciate your time as always, bud.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
You got it. Keith McPherson. You can hear him on WFAN in New York City, the free-to-download Odyssey app, your best vehicle to do so.
He's right about Dolan. He is the most vindictive owner. Before we became familiar with facial recognition, this is going back 5 years, he had that technology installed at MSG to bar anyone who sued him. So if you were a lawyer that was bringing litigation against his company, you were not allowed in the Garden.
Oh, just a petty, small man.
Oh, my God.
With billions of dollars and all this wealth and power. And he just wields it for things like that.
This guy puts himself on tour with his guitar.
Yeah.
Why? Because I have all the money. Doesn't matter if people are paying to see him or not. It's my tour.
Yeah.
The clown.
Yeah, he is. And I love that. The idea that the Knicks got good because he was preoccupied building the Sphere in Las Vegas. I'm like, yeah, that checks out. That timeline actually checks out. And now you take this risk. And it might work out for him. But I still think you need to add a little bit more to that roster, regardless of who your next coach is.
But I think Keith is right. The idea that you're going to get Jason Kidd in Dallas, who, hey, they do have Cooper. All of a sudden you're going to be like, oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Be crazy if Dallas could let go of Kidd. Just be, crazy. But we'll monitor. We'll see. It becomes clear with each passing day that when they fired Tom Thibodeau, they really did not have a plan. We believed, hey, if you did this, you've been talking to somebody. You
have an idea.
You've got an idea of what you want to do. Nope, no idea. We're going to just shoot from the hip.
That was just emotional. Yeah. Oh, wait a second. No, we did our player exit interviews, and it came up a few times about the minutes, so that's a fireable offense.
Sure. Really appreciate Keith stopping by. We'll get that conversation for you on demand wherever you get your podcasts. You can find the Sports Bar. Search us out, like and subscribe while you're there. And if you missed any part of the show, our YouTube channel is also available for you at The Fan Rochester. We encourage you to like and subscribe, comment there. We're checking that out and putting a little wind in our sails there with the YouTube channel. Happy Hour is on the way next.
Yeah, let's talk about Bill's minicamp because Mike Catalana made a prediction for tomorrow. What do you think is going to happen with James Cook? Are we ready for this? 866-4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening. AM, WBEE HD2 Rochester, and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
It's going to feel like football season, and no, I'm not talking about the weather. I'm talking about mandatory minicamp for the Buffalo Bills and for other teams that begins tomorrow. The Green Bay Packers have officially released corner Jair Alexander. Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final is tonight. Edmonton is at Florida. Series tied at 1 game each. Edmonton head coach Chris Knobloch wants his team to keep it simple.
You still have to play on instincts. You still have to play to your strengths, and we believe our strengths is passing the puck around and sharing it and making high percentage plays. And sometimes there are mistakes, and that's part of the game. There's never going to be a perfect game. I think it's important for our players to play off their instincts.
Rochester Red Wings are off tonight. The Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp come to town tomorrow night. Yankees and Mets also not playing tonight. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Tomorrow it will be football on the field, in the classroom, as it begins the 3-day mandatory minicamp.
The Packers and corner Jair Alexander officially divorcing today after 2 injury-plagued seasons and an offseason of contract talks and trade speculation.
You think a team like the Bills will take a swing at this guy?
Touchdown! Nick Chubb! Unbeaten following losses. That remains intact as the Thunder win game 2 big. 123-107 over the Indiana Pacers.
And tonight's Stanley Cup Final takes center stage. Game 3.
Let's do that hockey.
Let's do that hockey again.
Mike Danger.
You're the guy that used to call the radio station. Hey, look to order a pizza. Click.
Hanging up.
Gene Battaglia.
When I'm telling you I must have blacked out, I don't remember doing that. Obviously, I did it. It's right there. I can't deny that.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
You know, you're right. Maybe that was AI Gene. It wasn't really Gene.
Really me, yeah.
So with that in mind, I'm sure that we have some regulars in the sports bars. We welcome you into Happy Hour that can share an image or two of what AI Gene actually looks and sounds like. You know, there's lots of AI generators out there that you could probably plug some stats into and have it spit out something. Gene Battaglia, you know, big timing somebody, making prank phone calls to his coworkers, his co-host, you know, hanging up the phone on him. You could probably have some fun with the AI generator trying to create a AI Gene Battaglia.
I'm kind of afraid because you and I won't be here on the 4th of July, but that's when you would test it out like, hey, welcome to the sports bar on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Danger, are you grilling tonight? Are you, like, yeah, that would be the time.
Yeah. Well, I've been saying, hey, we better learn how to use it before it does take over our jobs. You know, keep it at bay a little bit, you know, just to know enough. I know we got some people that are listening that are probably already playing around enough with the AI. We certainly have Photoshop guys out there. We've experienced some of the work of Phil, one of our regulars on Photoshop. Great stuff from him. So, yeah, maybe it was you. Maybe it was AI Gene prank calling me last week, hanging up on me after you won the Aaron Rodgers box wine bet.
No, that was really me. Sorry, I got to own it. And I appreciate you paying up immediately. Next time you saw me, here it is. And I'm saving that for vacation, buddy.
I like it. We've got mandatory minicamp for the Buffalo Bills getting underway tomorrow in Orchard Park. The big question, whether or not James Cook will be in attendance. We had 13 Web Sports, Buffalo Plus's Mike Catalana, joining us last hour, actually earlier this afternoon, and his prediction is no, you will not see James Cook, and I agree with him.
Well, no, he won't be there, but then where does the story go? Even if he's there, Danger, like, where does the story go? Like, anything short of James Cook saying, hey, I'm cutting off all contract talks. I'm going to play under the current terms of my deal, and I would ask the Buffalo Bills to let me go into free agency. I mean, that would seem to be to compromise. Like, okay, if the agent said, all right, you won't give us this, will you not use the tag? I bet you Brandon Beane would say, okay, that's fair enough. We're not going to hold you against. Mike brought up an interesting point, though, and something we haven't explored, because this is like during the drought era, we'd be like, okay, yeah, who really wants to come to Buffalo? We have to overpay for Buffalo, and then winning cures all, right? But what if James Cook doesn't actually want to be here? Well, if he didn't want to be here, well, easiest way is, okay, I'll be here if you pay me the most in the league at $15 million. So.
I don't know. I mean, maybe the idea that his house is for sale is a tip that he doesn't want to be here, that the guy is, doesn't have a long-term vision of life in Buffalo.
Or it could have just been a stunt by the agent, and you can put anybody's home on the market.
I suppose.
Take it right off, yeah.
I suppose. I think what I believe is what I've believed all along, and that's that the Bills just don't value that position the way he believes it should be valued, and therefore it will be another team paying James Cook his $15 or more million per year once we're next season.
This doesn't come without any risk, though, because this team in 2025 is built to make a run at a championship.
For sure.
It just is. And to take James Cook away from that, there would be a domino effect here, Danger. Let's say James Cook, like the extreme here being, hey, I'm going to be a Le'Veon Bell and I'll show up week 10. Ray Davis moving up to RB1. Ty Johnson moving up to RB2. Who knows who becomes the third down back? I'm sorry, I'm not ready to sign up for that yet. And you could say, well, there's going to be other options around the league. There's got to be a happy medium between the two sides here. Maybe the happy medium is, all right, James, we're gonna pay a little bit more this year and then let you go to free agency.
Nah, I'm not into it. I actually like the way Brandon Beane is playing this, and I don't mind the Bills treating that position the way they're treating it, meaning they're going to get production from Cook or from whoever else is in the backfield, and I think they can be this way. The simple fact that they have Josh Allen at quarterback, I think that cures a lot of problems, a lot of concerns that you might have about who's toting the rock in the backfield. It's a lot easier for them. Plus, you got a great offensive line. It's a lot easier for them to get production when you have 17 behind center, when you have that offensive line. And so I think you'll still get, maybe you don't get what Cook gave you last season because that was pretty remarkable, but I still think you can get production out of running back, even if it's a rookie running back next year that you end up drafting in 2026.
Well, I mean, if you hop over to the agent, I think the agent here hasn't done a great job for James Cook. First of all, you've got to set expectation. The expectation being $15 million is just not, the Bills aren't going to pay that number. Okay, but when you went on social media, hard to retract that. But then the fact that you went on social media, okay, that there's been some mistakes here. But if you're just taking it from the agent's standpoint, how, James, do we get to where you want to be? Not playing this year doesn't help matters. Not being late to training camp doesn't help your cause. And I'm not taking this from a Buffalo Bills rah-rah, let's go team standpoint. If James Cook wants to get paid in March of 2026, which checks notes, it's only 9 months away, Danger. The best way to do that is just to ball out this year. And sure, the month of June, is this going to really hurt James Cook? No. But when we get to training camp, I would say, all right, that's, to me, the real deadline. If you're going to be at camp. By the way, there's another, like Jalen Ramsey's skipping mandatory minutes.
Yeah, and this is not a new tactic, and it happens with a lot of teams. We haven't seen it in the Brandon Beane era.
No.
This is the first time that we're really seeing. The closest we came to this was Poyer in a couple of days out of training camp, right?
But it was, it wasn't even a hold in.
It was like an understanding, like he's here, we're going to work something out, he's going to get back on the field. I don't see that happening this time with James Cook. And I don't see Brandon Beane caving on this. I'd be shocked if he got what he's asking for out of the Buffalo Bills. So, how much pain can he endure? Is the team going to fine him? Or are we going to have a...
Well, the team doesn't have any. It's in the CBA. He gets fined, period.
Okay.
So that's not a, hey, we're going to rescind. That they've taken that decision away from the teams, and rightfully so. Like, every team might look the other way on that. Do the Bills really want to find James Cook? No, but that's what's coming tomorrow if he doesn't show.
Yeah, and how much pain can he endure if he's sitting out of training camp? Probably not sitting out, rather doing the now in vogue holding in rather than holding out. But do we see him on the field at all for practice come St. John Fisher University, at the end of July? Remains to be seen.
Dude, I do that still. I'm calling, 36 games a year over there. I'm like, hey, Carl. Our phone number, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Normally it's last call for John, but he wants to weigh in.
Hey,
John.
what's up, pal?
Hey guys, I got to tell you, Ray Davis is no James Cook, but I think James Cook is the best. The Bills, and I know you guys have talked about it, the Bills have to look for a trade for this guy. They got to get some kind of draft pick and let him go. There's too many running backs out there that can do the job. I love Ty Johnson. I love Ray Davis. And I'm sure we can add somebody else through waivers, whatever. But James Cook, let him go. Well, the other thing I was going to say is, the thing that scares me is if we trade him to the Jets or the Dolphins or the Patriots, that I wouldn't like. But anybody else, fine. What are your thoughts?
I don't think they're going to trade him at all, John, just because it's not that simple. Any team that trades him has to agree, yeah, you're worth the money, and then hand it over. So it's almost like it's a two-part negotiation if you're interested in James Cook. You're negotiating with the Buffalo Bills, and you're negotiating with James Cook's representation. That's a lot to ask. Now, it can happen. I point to the Diggs trade. I never thought you'd get a second-round pick for a receiver that we knew was kind of play his last year in
Timing
Buffalo.
of that was different, though. I mean, you did that at the beginning of the offseason. This is now teams are pretty much set in their rosters.
Yes. So that was, it was in the month of June. It can happen, but it would be kind of a stretch there. And
I just don't see a team wanting to dish out. I mean, and if you're James Cook, you don't want that either. I mean, that's a move by the Bills that kind of screws over Cook, because if he does hit free agency, what you want is a bidding war. You want multiple teams interested in your services. You want to jack up your price as much as you can. You don't really get that opportunity if you get dealt. I don't think there's a team that's going to trade for James Cook and give up a second or a third rounder for James Cook. And that would also mean that you're the Bills. You better be damn sure that Ray Davis is an RB1. I don't know that we are. I don't know that we've seen enough to know that he can do the same kind of things that we saw James Cook do just last season.
No, that's what makes that trio really great. They all have a different skill set. And please explain to me someone, running backs that have the speed that James Cook has in this league.
The breakaway speed is impressive.
Yes, and that would be hard to replace. So anybody that wants to say, yeah, it's a running back position, you can replace that value. Why would you want to touch this during what you would hope would be the season final?
Can't mess with it.
No.
Right. Can't mess with it and let it play out.
That's why, like at this point in the offseason, what does a third-round pick in 2026 do for me? That's not helping me win a Super Bowl now.
Right. There was another Bills story, courtesy of Jordan Schultz, that earlier in the offseason, the Bills were sniffing around Green Bay looking to make a deal for Jair Alexander, who is being released by Green Bay after they weren't able to come to terms on a new agreement. They drafted him. He's a first rounder from 2018. In more recent years, he's played more games. He's missed more games than he's played with a string of injuries. But, it would appear, well, the takeaway is that I think Brandon Beane, when he says, I'm always going to look for ways to make our roster better, this is another example. Even though it didn't pan out, even though you didn't get Jair Alexander, the idea that the Bills were even sniffing around for Jair Alexander tells you, one, they didn't feel great about their quarterback room prior to the draft, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And two, Brandon Beane, a man of his word, saying, yeah, I'm always going to look for players that are going to make us better.
Yeah, I mean, okay, would this be now something the Bills would consider now? And I would say, well, it wouldn't be good asset management to me to bring in a Jair Alexander, because you're not doing that unless he's actually going to start, okay? Jair Alexander, is he better than Dane Jackson? Yes. Is he better than Tre'Davious White?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. But he's not coming here to be a backup or to compete with Maxwell Harrison. I could see the Bills actually kind of going down this road and exploring what this could look like and realizing, at that price, whatever Green Bay was asking for at the time was a little too steep. I'm sure that the Miami Dolphins are not at all happy hearing that Jair Alexander. Now, it's official. He's on the street. He can sign with anybody. Green Bay just said, okay, here's your release, where the Dolphins are trying to get something for Jalen Ramsey. And It just seems to me the corner position danger is one that, boy, you better be careful when you're adding out that money. And we experienced this with Tre'Davious White the first time around, ironically enough.
It's tough, man. We talk about it all the time, about that position, the life cycle of a corner, and how, if much like running back, you want to get paid in your prime because you're going to get grounded. You're running back, you're going to get ground into a pulp. And so you better make your money while you can make your money after taking all that punishment. And I think the same thing with corner. As your skills diminish, as your technique and your physicality diminish, you're not the same player you once were. And it's sad when you see it happen to players like Alexander, who were really, really good players, but at this stage of his career, battling all these injuries, and I put Trey White in there too, you're just not as physical as you used to be. You don't have the physical skill that you used to have when you were younger.
Now, I made a prediction. Actually, it's not a prediction. It's a suggestion, right? If I could say, hey, I got something that worth looking at plus 3,500, and you're going to go to Vegas, something you can't bet on here in New York State, and we'll run this by our guy, PJ Glasser, but will Maxwell Harrison be good for the Buffalo Bills? I don't know, but here's what I can tell you. He's going to have a lot of balls in his direction if he's going to be starting, right? Christian Benford is that good at corner one. If Benford is healthy, and if Harrison is the guy that the Bills hope he is, and we've seen rookie corners flourish in this league, I'm excited, Danger. That was kind of going down a different path for Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane to draft a player that's just not steady. They drafted a home run hitter. Maybe he gets burnt on some plays, but I'm just thinking, boy, say he gets 2 pick sixes in the season. Okay, well, then he's in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. Again, plus 3,500. Those are not bad odds.
Right. I wonder what Abdul Carter is and how much of an impact he'll make in New York, how many eyeballs will be on him and how spectacular he is in his rookie year. But you could certainly see a stat line for Hairston where at the end of the year, maybe he's got 5-6 interceptions and a couple of pick sixes, a couple of touchdowns. Yeah, I think he's in the conversation for sure. He's got to get on the field week one.
Well,
Bill's got to get him on the field week one. Like that. I believe Catalano when he said earlier that that's a guy that feels like they drafted him to be on the field week one, to be starting week one. That you don't want to have to start Tre'Davious White week one opposite Christian Benford.
You asked Catalana a question. I want to quiz you on this. Do we have a competition for position we wouldn't normally consider? Like a veteran in Matt Milano. Could Dorian Williams actually supplant Matt Milano?
It's crazy to me to think about it because I think we all love what Matt Milano has been for the Buffalo Bills, but we know that this is going to be his last year, and we know that the Bills always have a plan with their players. I mean, these guys aren't just humans. They're assets. They know, like, okay, it's a chessboard, and they know Milano's going to be gone next year, so Dorian Williams needs to step up. And by the way, is that the worst thing ever if Dorian Williams has another season like he did last year where he led the team in tackles? The thing that we don't know is their handle on the defense. Is Matt Milano more cerebral when it comes to Sean McDermott's defense than Dorian Williams? Is Dorian Williams more instinctive? I mean, just based on their play, I think that's what you could kind of surmise, right? You could say to yourself, yeah, I think Milano knows where everybody needs to be and knows where he needs to be, and he knows this defense like the back of his hand, where Williams is still kind of instinctual and kind of flies all over the field and maybe is out of position a little bit more frequently than Milano is. But you can't compare the physical tools of one versus the other because Williams is just younger. He's got more tread on the tire. He's going to have another good season for the Buffalo Bills.
Well, 2 major injuries for Matt Milano in the last 2 years. And yes, Dorian Williams did lead the team at tackles, and that's a tribute to him just being available. That's really Matt Milano was not available first half. Terrell Bernard missed some time there, getting hurt, dinged in week 2. So, yes, Dorian Williams, but I'm not ready to say that's a full-on competition at the point. I think it's just kind of a source of depth.
My question was, is he better right now than Matt Milano? And based on what we saw at the end of last year, I know Milano made some plays down the stretch. But I think Williams is a better player right now.
See, I disagree. Until Matt Milano says, no, I'm not ready to do this. And the fact that Matt Milano, there's one play in a playoff game, Bo Nix, no, sit down, Bo. I mean, it was like, okay, Matt Milano is healthy once again. But these are good problems to have, Danger.
Sure.
Like, what are we arguing about? We're arguing about two good linebackers and who should see more reps.
Yeah, for sure. So that was our conversation with Mike Catalano from earlier today. You can catch that wherever you get your podcast. Search out the Sports Bar. Go listen in the free-to-download Odyssey app when you have a chance. And search us out. You'll find all of our guest appearances there.
Yeah, and, we did talk to Keith McPherson, and here's the thing that is a little disheartening if you're a Knicks fan. The best year in a quarter of a century, right? Like for the Knicks, and no, they didn't get to where they wanted, but there's so much hope and there's so much future, and it's just it's a cold reminder that you have a jerk of an owner and your team is actually dysfunctional at the top. There was no plan when Thibodeau was fired. They don't have a plan right now to hire a new head coach. When you hear hey, Jay Wright, would you be interested? No.
I'm good.
I'm good. Jason Kidd, well, we're hoping that we can talk to him. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah. When they made that move, Danger, I'm like, okay, fine, I don't like it, but okay, let's see. And you could point to Bud Showalter and Joe Torre. You can point to Steve Kerr and Mark Jackson. You can point to Chucky taking over for Tony Dungy. There's countless examples of teams that couldn't get over the top. But in every example, Tampa knew they wanted to go get that guy. Or George Steinbrenner knew that, hey, Joe Torre, he's a New Yorker. That's our guy. Who is the guy with the Knicks?
Maybe they promote Dad. Maybe Brunson's the next head coach.
You're saying this with your tongue in your cheek. I don't think that's ludicrous.
I don't think it's off the table. I mean, if all things fall through and none of your right now you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants, your plans don't come to fruition.
I would go the other direction where I agree with McPherson. Get a point guard. Get a point guard who can actually defend because and look, I don't want to take anything away from Brunson. He's great. But once there's 8 seconds on the shot clock, he's dribbling. He's not going to give it up in the last second. Make him the off guard. They really don't have a 2 since they sent DiVincenzo to Minnesota. So, that's we do have basketball coming up Wednesday. Wasn't really interested last night.
Last night's game was I think exactly what you want if you're OKC. Like, we're in control the entire game. We're eliminating Halliburton completely. And, a fairly easy win for OKC to even up that series. We've got Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight from Sunrise after Marchand gets the double overtime goal over the weekend. Man, that's tough. But the play that I'm talking about all weekend is the McDavid assist on the Draisaitl goal. My goodness. You cannot do that to other professional athletes. That's a crime. That's criminal. That was some of the filthiest stuff I've seen on ice ever.
When Dennis Bernstein had the take, it was one of those, what? Yeah, come on, you're kidding. Last year went to 7 games. Edmonton, Florida. This year's final will be even better. Like, how could it be better than last year?
Yeah, you get 2 overtime games.
Oh, yeah, double overtime, and yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to care about either of these teams. Do we have to care? Do you have to have action? Or can you just watch the game and enjoy it?
Well, I don't know if you're going to bring this up in shots. I have a tolerance for pain, and I can watch hockey. If my team is playing, I can watch hockey, double overtime, triple overtime. What I can't commit to is 5.5 hours for the French Open final.
Yeah, I didn't. We're not going to bring it up in shots only because I saw that. I'm like, normally you get the fear of missing out or something. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Oh wow, 5. I like
longest.
Tennis, yeah.
This is the longest major final in history, was it not?
Yeah, 5.5 hours.
You have to really, really love someone or something to commit 5.5 hours to it. I'm sorry. I mean, I like tennis. I mean, if you're a tennis player and you're actually I bet you there isn't a single tennis player who spent 5.5 hours, a fan of tennis, somebody who plays the sport, loves the sport, that sat through 5.5 hours consecutive to watch that match. That's a long, long time. Can we take a cue from baseball? Can we get like a shot clock? Can we get a pitch clock for
Well, there was once the longest Yankee Red Sox game.
Oh, yeah.
Went 6 hours, 49 minutes.
It's brutal. That is just brutal.
Yeah. Well, there's one sport without a clock.
Oh, there you go. There's
Beautiful,
baseball
yes.
writer. It was beautiful, wasn't it? 6 hours of baseball. Was that heaven on earth?
Wonderful.
Or was it just
remember,
Iowa?
I remember it like yesterday, Mike Danger. It was just beautiful that, the idea that you can sit there with your son and watch baseball and you don't have to worry about time.
No, but you don't have to worry about time because baseball has marked the time.
And we baseball writers do just that.
You're right. You remind us of all that was once good and could be good again. Thanks, baseball writer. 6 hours for a baseball game.
Why do you have to give me the flatulent sound whenever I do that?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of hot air. A lot of hot air circulating in the room. Let's get to a round of shots next.
Yeah, the Oilers have one decision to make here tonight. We will explain here as we do have Game 3 and what has been a great series so far. What does Indiana need to do? I think it's pretty simple. We'll explain here why fans are just rolling their eyes like ABC and the NBA can't seem to get this right. The Rockies, we've got that. And the in-game interview in baseball didn't go so well last night. Short stories and more coming up.
All right, we got that coming up with a round of shots. And don't forget about last call at 866-4FAN. You can have the final word in the sports bar, 585-866-4326.
update.
Bills mandatory minicamp beginning tomorrow. No word if James Cook will be there or not. The Packers today are officially releasing corner Jair Alexander. Tonight's Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final. Edmonton is at Florida. Series tied at 1 game each. Florida head coach Paul Maurice on his team's Jekyll and Hyde power play.
We've never run a 40% power play home or road, and we don't run a 4% power play home or road. I think I have absolutely no idea why those numbers are so skewed at all. And we've talked about it, and then once we got to the point we couldn't figure it out, we just left it alone. I don't know is the answer.
Wings are off tonight. For the first time, the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. They come to Rochester beginning tomorrow. The Yankees and Mets, they're off tonight as well. The Yankees beginning a series in KC tomorrow. The Mets beginning a series Tuesday against Washington. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The only way to take the Fan Rochester with you is the free Odyssey app. Download it today and follow the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Happy Hour continues in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us. Thanks for listening to The Fan Rochester at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The Odyssey app or online, YouTube, our channel, The Fan Rochester, where we stream live every afternoon from 3 until 6. It's time for a round of shots.
Ryan Nugent-Hopkins will be a game-time decision tonight for Edmonton. He missed practice on Sunday. He's been a part of their top power play unit. He kills penalties. Come on, he's going to be out there tonight, you would figure. If you remember the script from last year, Florida was actually up 3-0 in this series before Edmonton took it to a Game 7. This year, Games 1 and 2, they've both gone to overtime. Brad Marchand with the game winner for the Panthers in Game 2 in double OT. 8 o'clock, the coverage starts tonight on TNT.
So far, so good. If you're a hockey fan, if you're an NHL fan, this has been a great series. Dennis Bernstein was right. I didn't think it could be better than last year, and maybe it's just a different script, but you've got just tight competition, no team giving another an inch, and it's been a lot of fun.
Indiana has made it a habit of rallying to win games this postseason, but shooting just 35% from the floor in the first half, that proved to be too much to overcome. The Thunder taking Game 2 to even up the series. Tyrese Halliburton was just 1 of 5 shooting in the first half, leading to his team being down by 18. Halliburton says he's focused on getting better starts. Game 3, we got to wait until Wednesday in Indianapolis.
Okay. Yeah, we've got the schedule. I mean, they gave an extra day there for the travel schedule, right? Like, it was weird not having anything on Saturday.
Yeah, and they really want to make sure that these games are landing in good spots here. So, sure, this is what we deal with this time of year. After hearing criticisms that the hardwood did not have the NBA Finals logo on it, ABC superimposed the Larry O'Brien trophy on the hardwood. Danger, the thing is, it looked low res.
It did.
The second quarter, it switched over to the NBA Finals presented by YouTube.
Yeah, of course.
About forgetting the tradition of the logos on the court for the finals, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver admits that he hadn't thought much about it until he saw it on social media.
Right. He's only thinking about making sure all the sponsors get their placement and their messaging, and that's fine. That's the business part of it. But it's still your biggest event of the year, and details matter. Every fan that watches the NBA doesn't take it seriously if you're watching this, and it's like when you watch the Super Bowl, when you watch the World Series, when you watch the Stanley Cup, there's an expectation. I want to get fired up as a fan, and it just felt like a regular Game 1. Felt like, and last night it almost to a point felt like just a regular season game. Nothing really new to see here.
Yeah, well, it's also Oklahoma City. And it's Indianapolis. It doesn't have the big
All
time.
right. So I say for Game 3, let's color the floor. Let's do like we do for the NBA Cup. Let's add a little bit of flair to it. Let's get that logo, the NBA Finals logo, everywhere. Let's get a giant Larry O'Brien somewhere on the court. Let's go.
Pop quiz: who won the NBA in-season tournament this year?
This year? Was it the Indiana Pacers?
No.
Oh.
No.
Milwaukee Bucks.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's not a failure.
No, they have their championship.
Get their banner. I remember because Bart Winkler went to the NBA Cup parade in the streets of Milwaukee.
Winkler gets out. They win it. He goes to downtown Milwaukee. It looks like downtown Rochester. It's like, where is everybody celebrating this?
Right. Yeah. No, it was funny.
Nobody on the streets.
Middle of winter, and he's out in the middle of downtown Milwaukee with his lawn chair waiting for the parade to go by. Where's the parade? We just won the NBA Cup. Nobody cares.
Following the footsteps of Steeler greats Tommy Maddox and Kenny Pickett, tongue-in-cheek, Aaron Rodgers will wear number 8 for Pittsburgh. Hard to imagine he was asking Terry Bradshaw for permission to wear number 12, although he might have. Who knows? Bradshaw might have told him to go chew bark.
Yeah.
In his 21st season, Rodgers will make just over $13 million this season.
$10 million guaranteed. So he can say, I knew this was going to happen. I'll work for 1 year, $10 million. He's getting a little bit more. He's got some more baked in there with incentives. And we'll see what he comes to minicamp. Is he in shape? Is he participating? Is he off to the side? These are all the things that we'll learn
and he's
more
going to
about.
get out there. No, actually, I'm sorry. We all have to tune into McAfee tomorrow to kind of learn, his
Is he on
thoughts.
tomorrow with McAfee?
I have no idea.
Yeah. He'll speak to the media in Pittsburgh. I believe tomorrow afternoon he speaks to the media. So that'll be his first time speaking to the media since officially signing with the Steelers. So yeah, if you're fatigued on Aaron Rodgers, bad news for you the next few days. Aaron Rodgers is going to be a story around NFL circles.
We'll try not to overdo it. Try on that. This story, not exactly sports, but I think it's a cautionary tale. I'll explain. This courtesy of Victoria Friel of the DNC. 2 people hospitalized following a golf cart crash at Sodas Point. The golf cart with 4 people on board was on Bay Street when the driver veered to avoid a deer in the road. This happened before 10:45. 2 people on the side of the car. One driver, one of them was taken by Mercy Flight.
So they weren't on a golf course. They were just driving a golf cart around Sodas
like it's
Point.
Like it's basically the Villages.
Yeah,
down in Florida.
right. That drives me nuts. I mean, look, I'm not going to tell people how to spend their money or live their life. If you have a golf cart and you live in a track and you use that golf cart to get to a friend or a neighbor or a family member's house, that's fine. But inside, there's a part of me, and I'm trying to be more accepting. I'm trying to. When I get irritated, I've been repeating this phrase. Tell me if I'm Gandhi or not. My phrase that I'm repeating is "Bless them, change me." That's what I keep repeating to myself. Like, oh, they've got a golf cart, like they're driving around like it's the Villages, and they're eating up the sidewalk by taking the golf cart on the sidewalk, or they're on the road and they shouldn't be on the road. Whatever it is, bless them. Change me. Why should I get upset? They're just enjoying their golf cart.
Well, we have that story also with John Elway where his agent died, or his longtime business associate, because, a golf cart he was driving, and nobody seems to be sharing the details on that.
I'm an angry golfer. I don't have a lot of patience on the golf course. Again, another thing I'm trying to work out. I'm getting sorting through a lot of things in my head. Well, one time I did go golfing with my wife. I want to say it was like our 10-year wedding anniversary. When we went golfing for our 10-year wedding anniversary, we went back to the country club where we had our reception. And I hit a shot that I didn't like. And I think I started to drive before she got in the cart, or something happened where she almost fell out of the cart. Hey, look, I at the time I'm like, yeah, okay, stop. You're being overly dramatic. But you hear stories like this and you forget. No, it's still a vehicle that can do some damage to you or those that you love if you're not careful. Try to be responsible.
No, to tell your lady friend, your wife, your girlfriend, you're being overly dramatic. That might not go over well.
I didn't say that. I think I might have said, you're fine. I fell out of the golf cart. You're fine. It's okay. You're okay.
Well, now she can point to this terrible story in Sodas.
Yeah. It's you should take it a little bit more seriously. And for all of my neighbors who drive around in their golf carts, just know, bless you, change me.
Hey, the Rockies gave up 6 homers to the Mets on Sunday. New York getting the second consecutive weekend. Mets sweeping the Rockies.
I knew you'd be in a good mood because the Mets did what they were supposed to do. If they would have lost a game to the Rockies, you would have been upset about that.
No. Friday night, the executive producer, I was pissed because I'm looking at my phone. We're watching hockey, okay? I'm watching that game, hockey, but I'm looking. It's 1-0. They're losing in the 6th. So I'm in a bad mood. But
You're stewing.
But the executive producer doesn't understand why I'm in a bad mood. It's like, because I shouldn't care about June baseball, but you can't lose to that was the game where Lindor broken toe and all, comes off the bench and bails the Mets out. And
so good.
He's the MVP.
He's so good.
About those Rockies, they're disgusting.
Yeah.
Every day we're going to have something like this. Through the first 65 games, they've now tied the 1932 Boston Red Sox for the worst start in the modern era. You always get these 1800. No. We're just talking 1900 on. To avoid their third consecutive 100-loss season, Colorado will have to go 51-46 for the remainder of the year. Not likely.
It was 1932. The Boston Red Sox had the worst start of the modern era. And they played for a genuine certified Lovin' Cup.
What do we think of the in-game interviews on Sunday Night Baseball? It's maybe this will come to an end after what happened to the Yankees last night. Jazz Chisholm was mic'd up. He was nice enough to say yes. Takes a grounder while he's talking to the broadcast crew. Oops, he airmails it. Throws it away. An error. At least Chisholm didn't swear.
Okay, so I feel like I've seen this happen a couple of times where a player or a teammate has made a mistake. I don't have a problem with the in-game interviews on Sunday Night Baseball. I think they're kind of fun. But that's what I'm watching for. I'm watching for, hey, he's not focused entirely on what's going on in the field, and somebody's going to make a mistake, or somebody's going to botch a pop out, or airmail a throw to first base, a routine play that is no longer routine because you're not as focused as you should be. Or maybe you're more focused. Maybe you have to think to yourself, I have to be dialed in. God forbid I screw this up while I'm talking on national TV.
The one time I really enjoyed it was actually the All-Star game. Like Nestor Cortez, I was like, okay, I'm going to throw him a changeup now. He's like legitimately telling what the pitch is.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that gives us a little peek behind the curtain. But the Yankees dropping 2 of 3 to Boston. But Boston, by the way, calling up their top prospect today.
Saw that too. Yeah.
It's there's
a lot of baseball left to go, man. This season is far from over. Everybody might be feeling good about their teams right now. I know you feel good about the Mets. I feel okay about the Cubs, even though they lost 2 of 3 from Detroit. Yankee fans feeling good with your team in first place, but there's a lot of baseball left to be played.
By the way, Roman Anthony is the kid's name. Number 1 prospect in baseball. Was hitting 288 at Worcester. 10 home runs.
We got to get to the last call. That's for you. You can join us and have the final word in the sports bar. Our number is 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. Buffalo Bills minicamp, mandatory minicamp gets underway tomorrow. We'll tell you who's going to stop by the sports bar tomorrow afternoon to share their practice notes and be our ears and eyes for the Buffalo Bills tomorrow afternoon. That's on the way next on The Fan Rochester.
Battaglia on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
What does the world look like tomorrow afternoon? Well, we will know whether or not James Cook is reported for Buffalo Bills mandatory minicamp. We'll have their first practice of mandatory minicamp in the books, and we'll be joined tomorrow afternoon by Matt Perino, who covers the team for Syracuse.com and the Syracuse Post-Standard.
We're grateful for this relationship with Matt. Always great. And of course, check him on the Shout podcast. So he'll be coming in at 3:25. And yeah, we're gonna have a lot of Bills news tomorrow. You would figure. We got time for a call at 866-4FAN 866-4326, or you can write to us at The Fan Rochester. This is Matt writing in, and this goes back to my thing. Like, look, it's plus 3,500. Maxwell Harrison to win the Defensive Rookie of the Year award? Maybe he's got a shot here knowing the volume. And I pointed out the last corner to win the award was actually Sauce Gardner. Matt writing in, what was Sauce's stats when he won? He had 2 interceptions, 75 tackles. I think that was a byproduct of 1, high draft pick, 2, kind of living up to it. Like, you're the shutdown corner, and he had a very good year, and the New York media sold everybody, hey, he's doing his job. So stats sometimes don't sell it. What I'm saying is with Harrison, he's going to have the opportunity for splash plays this season. You would figure balls are going to go in his direction.
Abdul Carter's the guy that I think is standing in the way. What does Abdul Carter live up to the hype?
If Abdul Carter gets 9.5 sacks, he's your Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. You get him to double-digit sacks or around there. Yeah, I have a hard time believing that anybody's going to that player has, I think, the potential to be, another special kind of, a Micah Parsons kind of player. And, there's a lot of comparisons because they both went to Penn State, but they have the same kind of, to my eyes, the same kind of trajectory. So if Carter falls short of expectation, then I would say Harrison's chances of making those plays. 2 interceptions for Sauce Gardner's rookie year. I mean, if you're Harrison, you're getting peppered with targets because they're avoiding throwing at Benford, and you're opportunistic and you make the most of those, you score a touchdown or 2. Yeah. The electric plays when they matter most. And
he's at plus 250.
Who is Carter?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Harrison is plus 3,500?
Plus 3,500.
Yeah. I like the value on Carter on that one. I think Carter would be a safer play, obviously, but you can't rule it out, and that's going to be a lot of fun to watch when we get to St. John Fisher.
Yeah. BetMGM tonight, I'm sure. Like, see, you can call them up tonight, and you can say, hey, the guys in Rochester were talking about this today.
Yeah. So that's tonight, coming up at 7 o'clock with Brad Evans and our buddy Ryan Horvat. Our buddy Brad Evans, too. You were just on the show last week.
I was just on the show on Wednesday.
Look at you. Making the national rounds. Gene Battaglia.
Thanks to PJ.
Making the Flower City proud. Yeah, PJ. PJ will stop by the sports bar on Wednesday, as he does every week, to give us some winners. Got game 3 of the Stanley Cup final tonight. Edmonton in Florida. I'm not going to make a all right, fine. I like Florida tonight. I say I like Florida tonight, and Edmonton will win by 5 because it's the NHL, and I really don't know what I'm talking about. But the series has been fantastic. How great has this series been so far?
It has been. Look, just games 1 and 2. Anything after this, how do you live up to 1 and 2 after that?
It's been great. The McDavid moves on that Draisaitl goal. I watching the highlight, I'm like, why is this highlight 3 hours long? I couldn't turn it off. I watched it over and over and over and over again. It was so magnificent. More of that tonight, game 3 from Sunrise. And, of course, tomorrow, as I mentioned, we'll be talking plenty of Buffalo Bills with Matt Perino as day 1 of mandatory mini camp gets underway. We have to wait until Wednesday before we get to game 3 of the NBA Finals. If you missed Keith McPherson, KM to AM on WFAN, if you missed the Hall of Famer, Mike Catalana from 13 Wham Sports, Buffalo Plus, you can get both those conversations on your favorite podcast platform. That includes Apple Podcasts. That includes Spotify. That includes Odyssey, our home online. Just search out the Sports Bar. You'll find us there. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we stream live every afternoon from 3 until 6. Again, The Fan Rochester on YouTube.
TJ Oshie announcing his retirement today.
Oh, the pride of War Road, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, did the best shootout player ever.
Oh, yeah. Great in the shootout. Clutch. Gonna miss TJ Oshie. We get JR Sport Brief on the way next. BetMGM tonight with the aforementioned Brad Evans and Ryan Horvat coming up at 7. Enjoy your night. Talk to you again tomorrow starting at 3 on The Fan.
You're listening to The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950.